And I'm still figuring out a lot of stuff because I got to like sync them together and everything like
Do the
that.
clap.
Oh, I don't know what the clap is.
Oh, well,
Is that like?
it's a video trick. So when you have to merge the audio and the video together,
Mm-hmm.
they both have their own soundtracks, and so
Mm-hmm.
you can line them up based off of a spike in the audio.
Okay, so the clap that you just did is gonna help me.
Exactly.
What's that?
That's where the clapper, the old, all right, take two,
Oh
click.
yeah,
That's what
yeah, yeah,
that's for.
yeah, yeah. No, yeah, that makes total sense now. There's probably some kind of technology thing now that they got rid of the clap,
Yeah,
and now the clap is just a disease from the past.
probably. Yeah.
uh, but you know what, dude? We're just gonna roll into it.
Sure.
So, Levi,
Good to
it's
see
good
you,
to
man.
see you, man.
Yeah.
Actually, it's our first time, I should say, meeting. We've met before very quickly at SEMA and
Yeah,
stuff
years
like
ago.
that. Yeah, years ago. Now we look back at it and it's like, well, it's been like probably close to 10 years now.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
I
it's
think
crazy.
that might have been 2016 when I
16,
met
yeah.
you.
So that's about when I went out on my own. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, so that was the time frame right there,
yeah.
huh? So I was catching you in that pivotal point in
Yeah.
your
So
life.
we've been probably following each other since then,
Yeah. Yeah.
but never really got to know each other very
Mm-hmm.
well. So,
You know how it is at the shows, though. It's
yeah.
like you go passing by, or you think you're gonna go talk to somebody, and then you get stopped, and you end
Yeah.
up with
I mean,
another.
and that's kind of part of the reason we go, though,
Yeah.
to see people that we want to see. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of looking forward to going to SEMA this year again and
Yeah.
just seeing, you're going to run into everybody you know. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's kind of a cool part about it.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into SEMA, but I really want to get into like I've said this before on the podcast is like getting to know the person and like Hammer Fab's a big name, and like I think people should know like who you are, how you started, and everything, and what how early would we go back to like what started your automotive career?
How much time do we got?
We got time. You don't have time,
Yeah.
but I don't have time either. But
Yeah. No, we're good. All right. So we'll go all the way back. Um, well, I grew up in rural Missouri,
hmm
just north of Kansas City, on a little hobby farm, 40-acre hobby farm, and grew up learning hard work, discipline, doing a bunch of chores, feeding. We had hogs and chickens and pigs and turkeys and everything, and we had my dad had tractors and stuff like that he needed to repair, and so I was around welders and cutting torches pretty much. Like he had a MIG welder and a cutting torch. That was the extent of his fabrication tools.
farm equipment, right?
Yeah, farm equipment. And we had this big scrap pile full of just random stuff from John Deere's and stuff.
hmm
And so I kind of just tinkered with that. I was interested in making stuff and welding, and then my uncle, my dad's brother, they both my uncle and my father both worked at General Motors their whole career, 33 years or whatever, and so they always had General Motors vehicles growing up, and my uncle always had like the newest car that came out probably every year since like 1960, probably around 1965 or something. He always had the latest greatest General Motors thing. He always have an Impala or a Cadillac or a new C10 or whatever it was sitting at his house, and I always remember that as a kid and admired him and his cars. And then my dad, he wasn't as much into cars in our family, but I'd hear these stories about how he always had this car back in the day. He had a 37 Ford or a 69 GTX or a 69 Chevelle or 56 Chevy, and so I always thought that was cool. And I don't know, I've loved classic cars and stuff since I was a kid. If I were to pinpoint it, I'd probably say ever since I was 9 or 10, like I knew I wanted to do something with old cars,
hmm
and I didn't really know what that was going to be yet.
Yeah.
But as a kid, I was always really good at just being creative, no matter what it was. Like I loved art class. I excelled in that kind of stuff. I could sketch good. I could draw good. I could paint good.
It's a common denominator
Yeah.
with people that
Yeah.
in our mindset.
And and then I loved shop class. When I got into high school, we had a wood shop class, and it was just something about me and the teacher in there. We just clicked, and to this day, we stay in touch. And he was one of the guys in my life that really, I mean, was foundational in helping me develop as a craftsman.
Yeah.
And
And it's like shop classes like
dead now.
it's
Yeah,
not in classes anymore.
need to bring them back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was that. So high school, I knew. See, sophomore year of high school, I knew pretty much what I wanted to, the path I wanted to take, and I knew that I did not want to go to regular college. Like
Yeah.
I'm not this English and math and all that. I'm not. That's not me. But I was really good at this other stuff that it didn't really count in high school. But so I think we'll see. Let's see how far back do we want to go. Okay, so we can. Yeah, I grew up on the farm, and then
Yeah, the family members of the shed, all
yeah. And so so let's go back a little bit. So my uncle that had all the cool cars, he had a couple of old cars behind his house. He had an old truck, 58 Chevy truck that was kind of in pieces, and then he had these two Bel Airs along the fence row, and there was a 53 two-door hardtop and a 54 two-door hardtop. And every time I go over there, I'd go, just play around those cars and just, I don't know. I just want to be around old cars any chance I got.
Yeah.
And when I got to be about 14, he said, hey, if you want, you can have one of those cars out there if your dad will let you take it home, kind of thing. And my dad's probably like, oh, great,
Yeah.
We had plenty of room to put it. We had 40 acres, but it wasn't really what my dad was into. But so I picked the truck, a 58 Chevy truck, and that's kind of what started all of this. And, my dad was on board initially, like we were going to build this truck together. In his mind, we were going to restore it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what
But
you mean by restore.
Did he know anything about that?
No, not really. No, just I can paint it when we get ready. And I'm thinking, I don't know, Dad, haven't seen you paint anything yet.
It's the start of a great story
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah. But I mean, we started out with that joint force, to go after this. And, I was getting like classic truck magazines and Hot Rod magazine in the mail at that point. And I was just totally into it. Had, tear out the pictures of the magazine and use them for wallpaper in my room, and everything in my room was cars.
Yeah.
And I was building model cars. I had the Hot Wheels, everything. And and then I had this truck in the garage. We had a 2-car garage, and Dad dedicated a space for me to work on my truck, and it was a total rust bucket. I mean, it turned into it. The fun part about with Dad was we would go on like these journeys looking for a better truck.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Or a better parts truck or whatever. So we would go out in the middle of Kansas somewhere and drag home an old truck. Ended up, I think we had like 4 of them total for parts, and basically put the good pieces together to try and make a solid truck. But it also had a lot of rust in it. And so I'd buy the patch panels from the catalog or whatever at the time,
Yeah.
And Dad, he finally upgraded to a MIG welder, small wire welder. And so I had no idea what I was doing. And I was just out in the garage. I remember it was freezing out there, and I'd be out there, I'd lap weld it and just, send it. And I had no idea what I was doing.
You give me some really good. I'm remembering some of my MIG welds back in the day too. So
yeah, but I mean, it at least got me familiar with how the machine worked and things like that. And then, it was hard to get motivated. I remember as a kid not knowing how to do any of this, and my dad didn't really know how to do it. And but I wanted to do it so badly. And I'd read all the tech articles that came in the magazines, things like that. Well, one day I seen an article in Street Rodder magazine that said Hot Rod University or something, and it was all about Wyotech. And I told my mom, I took it to my mom. I said, that's where I want to go to school, because it was about time she was like talking about where do you want to go to school or what do you want to do? You know, your sister's going to college. What are you going to do? So I was feeling a little pressure, but at the same time, I didn't want to go to regular college. And so I saw that and I was like, that's where I want to go. And she's like, okay, you know, mom's always been a big supporter of me, and she's kind of more of the creative side too. And but I remember there was a little bit of tension when it came up that, you know, are we really sending our boy to Wyoming? You know, and so, anyways, that all worked out, and let's see, I graduated high school in 2000, and basically that next fall, I enrolled at Wyotech in Laramie, Wyoming, and they had this street rod class out there. Of course, they have their core classes, and they had collision refinishing, automotive, diesel, the basic core classes, and then they had a street rod custom fabrication class, and then they had a chassis and high performance engine class. And my main focus was, obviously, I want to do the street rod stuff, but in order to do that, you had to take some core classes too. And I knew, you know, I don't know, nothing bad about it really, but I knew I didn't want to sand Bondo. Or body filler. You know, I didn't want to be a collision guy. But we can get into like how that kind of comes back around.
I had my moments like that too, where I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like
we could go different ways here. But
yeah, because I took the high performance engines and chassis fab one, but that was my year was 2000 and oh man, how do I not remember this? 2009, I think, is when I graduated, and I was the last year for that class for the extracurricular. So the whole time we learned about engines, and it was they kept it to like books.
Yeah.
So I just did fabrication the entire time, which I love fabrication.
Yeah.
But it was like what really drove me. I took the collision refinishing, and I learned as much as I could there, but I was really like trying to go into like that fabrication side of things.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I don't know what it was, but something deep down inside of me wanted to take a business class. I don't know why. I didn't know why at the time, but I thought, you know what, this would be a good idea.
From the school? Or?
Yeah, from the school, from Wyotech. Yeah, they had, it's called ASM, I think, Applied Service Management.
Yep.
And if you took that class and passed, you got an associate's degree, which, I mean, I got one. I've got an associate's degree.
Yeah.
But I never had to use it. Nobody cared.
Yeah.
You know. So, went to Laramie, Wyoming. I took the 6-month core class of automotive and technologies. So basically anything and everything mechanically related to the vehicle, electrically, air conditioning, building transmissions, building an engine. I mean, we did all of that. And, you know, some of it I really enjoyed. Some of it I was like, oh, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah.
You know, I think I've built one transmission in my life, and that was enough.
Yeah. You're looking at the one transmission that I've done over there, and that was just a gasket thing, you know? I got no interest in the rest of that.
Yeah.
There's people that specialize it, let them do it.
I put it on the dyno. It was good. We're good. And then, so I got through that, and then I feel like the street rod thing was the last thing because I was itching to do the street rod stuff, but I think the business class was in the middle, and that was a 3-month class, teaching you all kinds of stuff. And at the time, I probably should have paid more attention. You know, I didn't do real good in that class. I did great in all of the mechanical classes and everything. But then when I went to the street rod class, you know, this is exactly right up my alley. This is what I was there for, and I mean, I aced that. I had perfect attendance and everything. Full attention. I was in it, man. And so I really enjoyed that. And at that time, that was kind of like when all the TV shows were big. You know, I forget what was the chopper one?
West Coast. I'm sorry.
Something Mania, or
man, I'm drawing a blank myself. Yeah, I mean, there was a number of them there.
Yeah.
I mean, I just had Rhino on the other day, you know, and he was West Coast Customs,
or Biker
Trick
Build
My
Off
Truck.
or something like that.
Was it the Tuttles or anything like
Nah,
that?
it was before that.
Okay.
But, It was Jesse James and all those guys. That's when they were big.
It was that genre
yeah.
when all the TV stuff was just taking off.
Yes, yeah.
For our industry.
Yeah, and the school was blowing up. I mean,
Yeah.
at the time, each class had like, I want to say 90 students in each classroom or something like that. And, some of them were there for a purpose and other ones were just there because mommy and daddy sent them there.
Yeah, yeah.
But you could kind of tell once you got out in the shop who was there for real, and got their projects done fast or whatever. But so at that point, I only knew how to MIG weld, and then WyoTech, basically, they were very adamant about teaching TIG welding, and so that's where I learned how to TIG weld, and they had a whole line of TIG welders, and that was part of the competencies that you had to pass. That you basically just sat there and welded these coupons of various thicknesses and things until the professor gave you the thumbs up, and it had to be perfect.
Yeah,
like your bead and the penetration, all of that. I mean, it had to be perfect, and so I kept some of those little coupons. I probably still have them somewhere to this day, but I kept those because I had to have something to prove that I could TIG weld, because I didn't have a TIG welder yet.
Did you know much about TIG welding?
I didn't know
that?
No, I didn't know anything
so
about
you were
it.
exposed to it the first time right there.
Yeah.
You knew MIG welding.
Yeah, MIG welding, okay, but TIG welding was a whole new thing. And yeah, I was exposed to it there. And chassis fab, I took that first. So I actually was able, one of my other uncles, he hauled my 58 Apache out to the school, and at that time they would allow you to have a shop project if you maintained a certain grade level and stuff like that. So once you got your competencies done, you were able to bring your project vehicle in, but you had to have a game plan of what you were doing, and you have to, they kind of helped you. Are you going to be able to get this done in the next 6 weeks or whatever? Yeah. And so that's where the cutting started, and that's where I lost Dad. So I wanted to hot rod it. Yeah. And so there was a salvage yard there in Laramie, and I went out there and found a front stub off of a 78 Trans Am. Yeah. And for like $200, and drug that back to the school and tore the whole truck apart all the way down to the frame. And this is before people were making chassis for most stuff. There might have been a company that was making them for those trucks, but I couldn't afford it, And so they had these frame tables though, Black Hawk frame tables or whatever. They use them in collision industry for pulling bodies. Well, WyoTech would use them for building custom chassis on because they were perfectly true. And so we put my chassis up on one of those, and then we put the front stub on there. And it was me and one other guy. We had to have like a team, like a partner to help us with this. He didn't have a project, but we were kind of well matched or whatever for our skill set and our grades and that. So that way he could get some hands-on experience too. So the two of us grafted on this front stub from the Trans Am. And I feel like, the instructors taught us how to do that very well and get the measurements very true. And they made sure like it was perfect before you welded it. Yeah. And, to this day, it still has that front. I still have the truck, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And that's the one that won SEMA 2019 Truck of the Year.
Man, holy shit.
Yeah, so
there's the backstory on it if you didn't know it.
Yeah. And so it still has that front stub on it.
Yeah.
The Camaro stuff is decent stuff, geometry-wise. It's not as good as the newest chassis that are available now.
Yeah.
But it's a lot better than leaf springs. And then we did, in the class, we did like a C-notch in the back. Yeah. And that was like a common thing that you could do in the class. It was pretty easy. But they would show you how to fixture it up correctly so when you do all the welding, it doesn't taco the frame.
Yeah.
Which is still an issue these days, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
So did that and street rod class, and then 3 months of street rod and custom metal fabrication, but that class also had a custom paint class. And so in my mind, I knew I was going to be going into this custom paint part of this. So I was like, well, why do I got to take the collision class if I'm going to take this, And so I got some painting experience in the custom paint class. Yeah. And a lot less sand and Bondo that way.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah. Did they do a lot of airbrush in that one?
yeah, they did
Okay.
airbrushing. Yeah, they had an instructor there that was really into it. He was there for years and years. Mike, I think was his name, but yeah, he's a really good instructor. But yeah, so another part of that class was you had to make a mailbox from scratch, which might sound like, why are you making a mailbox? It's a car class. Well, because it was a simple project that basically taught you several different basics of custom fabrication, entry-level basic techniques that you need when working on a car.
Yep.
And so we had to fabricate this mailbox from scratch. It had to have a functioning door with a hinge and a latch, and the door was actually hammer formed. So that was the first time I got exposed to, you can do this with metal. Like you can just make a thing and pound it around it. So that was pretty cool. And they showed you had to shrink and stretch the front edge around the door, and then you would laminate and plug weld the skin to that structure. So they were teaching you how to make a structure, and then how to form a skin. There wasn't really any compound curves involved, but it was just a lot of really good steps to get you going on fabrication. And then once you got done fabricating it, you had to learn how to bodywork it and paint it. And so that was really first time I got exposed to properly bodyworking something to the point where I could paint it and primer it, paint it, and everything like that. So, at the time I think they were doing, I want to say PPG, maybe Intercoat Clear. Did they have an Intercoat Clear?
I don't know about that time. I didn't take the custom paint class, so I'm not sure what they were using at the time there.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's Intercoat Clears when you're doing layers and stuff like that.
I remember they had that stuff, and then they had you had the option to do some pinstriping using the one shot, and so I kind of got into that for a little bit. I've still got some old one shot cans. They're probably still good, if you just liven them up a little. So I did some the tribal looking tiki pinstriping and stuff for a while. That was kind of fun. I never did it on a car, but I just did it for fun. And then
it's funny, the way you started this part about the mailbox, about it just being a mailbox and what's it got to do with automotive, and it's like because you just went through a process.
Yeah.
Like that process, all of a sudden you're understanding these different shapes and moving metal, and it's not just a mailbox anymore, After you do it, you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's like, well, now I can take some of what I did here and I can maybe do something to that fender.
Yeah.
Maybe not anything crazy, but you have a little bit more of an idea.
Yeah, I still got the mailbox. It's up on the shelf in the paint shop.
Oh, that's cool.
But I always wanted to paint flames on something, and to this day, that's the only thing I painted flames on. So I got to lay out some flames. I was really into that, the artsy side of it. Laying out the fine line tape. I was all about it.
Yeah.
And how do you transfer it from one side to the other exactly? I was just super intrigued by all that pattern making. And then I pinstriped it because I wanted to know how to pinstripe. I've always kind of been a do-it-yourselfer kind of guy. I just want to know how to do all the things.
Yeah.
You know?
That's how I felt growing up, too.
Yeah. So, graduated. So I was there a year and 3 months, 6 months for the core class, 6 months for street rod, and 3 months for the business class, and graduated with a diploma and an associate's degree. And my uncle came out, hauled my truck back, and then it was like, okay, now what? And so I applied to several shops all over the country. So at Wyotech, they kind of had a resource department.
Yes, I remember that.
Remember that? Uh-huh. And all these shops, that's where you start hearing about these shops. Pinkies and Rad Rides and Posies and Boyd's and, a lot of these top shops. And so I was like, I'm going to go work for one of them.
Yeah.
And I didn't really care which one, but I was going to, by golly, that's where I'm going, and I remember I sent out, I want to say it was around 50 resumes to every shop that I thought was going to be cool all across the country. And I only got a handful of replies back. and I think I got one from Foos, and they were real nice. Just politely turned me down or whatever.
Yeah.
And
You got a response back though.
I got a response. I got one from Posies. I got one from Pinkies. I don't think I got one from Rad Rides, but anyways, I was willing to go anywhere to do what I wanted to do. Like
Yeah.
I was,
You were all in.
I was all in. This is exactly what I'm doing. I'm not doing anything else.
But all right, because one of the thoughts I had was like, you like that custom painting stuff. Did you walk out of that going, I'm gonna be a custom painter?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. That's.
No, I mean I like that was an option, you
Yeah.
know, and I realized real quickly that the job opportunities for getting into one of these high-end shops are few and far between. Doing fabrication, is few and far between. Nobody's going to hire some kid right out of school, to start cutting up their hot rod, you know. But there's a lot of collision shops around that need somebody to, do some grunt work or whatever, or sand a fender and prep it, or so I went back to Kansas City, which is where I was just north of Kansas City, and I don't remember how I went about it exactly. I must have just applied, sent them a resume or something, but there was a body shop in Kansas, Merriam, Kansas. I forget the name of it now.
Were they one of the ones that responded?
They must have been. I think it was. I think
Yeah.
it was one of the ones that just responded to my broad thing. And they were, they were 30, 45 minutes away from where I was, maybe an hour. And
You were willing to like go across the country at this point.
Yeah, I was willing to go to any
Yeah.
state. And I already went to school out of state, so it wasn't no big deal at that point to go somewhere else. So, which I think was good. Like, I'm glad that I left home to go do something. I remember there was a time when I was at Wyoming where I got homesick.
Yeah.
And, but once I got over that, it stuck with me forever, and it's been the best thing that I've done, I think. I mean, my mom and dad probably wouldn't agree, but.
Yeah. Was that like your first time, like taking a chance on something and like going out of town?
Oh, yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you going away from your family and everything you know. You don't have any friends anywhere out there. You don't know anybody.
It's a formidable time in your life right there.
Yeah.
I remember that feeling,
Yeah.
driving all the way from Florida all the way to Blairsville, Pennsylvania, whatever you want to call bumfuck Egypt, like you're in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
Like you don't know anybody. Like I think I don't remember how old I was, like 20, 21, 22, something like that. Yeah, 21, because I actually had, I turned 21 while I was there, so I bought my first beer.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is like it's a.
Yeah, I mean,
really,
you got that little sense of freedom, okay, yeah, we're going to party it up a little bit, whatever.
Yeah.
But, just I think that's important, to not necessarily stay where you were raised. I mean, maybe, I think, but be willing to go somewhere else, maybe.
Yeah. Well, you had that feeling of, like you said, homesick a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? Like that appreciation of where you left. Because
Yeah.
I left here, I'm like, I'm getting out of Florida. Like, I'm over this. And then it was like, man, it's cold up here. And you can't do anything outside during winter.
Yeah.
And there's ice storms. And it was just like, I think I like Florida a little bit more now.
Yeah. 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 So I started at this, dang it, I can't remember the name. Can't remember the name of the shop.
But it was your first. It was your first shop.
It was first
coming
shop,
out of school.
first job right out of school.
Yeah.
It'll come to me.
I
but,
know. Yeah, trust me, I do that all
yeah.
the time. And an hour later, it'll hit me, and I'll be like, "That's the name." I
Yeah.
think that happened to me on yesterday's podcast. So
Yeah. So, anyways, I started at this. It was a collision shop, but they had a shop in the back where the owner and a couple of his old buddies back there were working on hot rods.
yeah,
And I could see him back there, and he was kind of a gruff old man. Just it's a hard dude to figure out. Like, why is he looking at me that way? What But I was up front. Just had another older gentleman, that classic looking guy. I mean, he had the slick back hair, the rolled up sleeves, the button up shirt with the little thing in the pocket. I mean, he was tucked in shirt. He was tidy every day.
Yeah.
This dude looked like he rolled out of the 50s. His name was Mylan. And that guy, he was one of the slowest moving guys, but he would get more done than anybody in the shop, and he would never get dirty.
He was slick.
You talk about efficient. This
Yeah.
dude was efficient, and I learned a lot from that guy. He taught me details. I would say that was my first probably interaction with somebody that was detail oriented. He was always saying, and I say it to this day, he was always telling me, clean as you go. If you make a mess, clean it up as you go. Don't wait till the end of the day to clean up this gigantic, overwhelming mess.
Yeah.
Make a mess here, clean it up. And everybody thought he was cleaning all the time. Well, yeah, he was, but look at how much stuff he got done, and he didn't even get dirty.
Yeah.
So
I feel that mentality. I don't like if I'm grinding something and I'm walking over all the shards of whatever I just grinded.
Yeah.
I'm cleaning all the time.
Yeah, why roll around in metal shavings?
Yeah.
It's not efficient. So he taught me some of that, but he also kind of mentored me. So there was 2 vehicles in there. There was a 60 Volkswagen truck that I did. Basically, I did the whole thing all the way up to clear coat. And that was the first and only vehicle that I did all the metal work on it, rust repair mainly. I did all the body work on it. I did all the primering on it, all the sanding on it, base coat, clear coat, the whole thing. And then Mylan wet sanded and buffed it. That was the only vehicle I've ever done all of that on myself.
Yeah.
So,
man.
But they trusted me with it, and it was a pretty cool job. It turned out pretty cool. You remember the Volkswagens? Back in around 2000, they had that real weird green color, like a sour apple.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking
green.
about. The Bugs had that a lot, right? Yeah.
It was that color, and then it had like a purple two-tone, which was it looked like a clown.
Yeah.
But that was cool to be able to do that and just kind of stick that in my resume. And then there was a 58 Impala that they were restoring also that was very nicely done. It was white, had the tomato red interior, a lot of chrome on that car. I got to paint some of the interior pieces and stuff for that. They had an upholstery shop also on site, and they had a guy over there doing upholstery, and he was a pretty good dude. Very, very good at what he did. I remember he was very good. And I think he's the one that mentioned to me one day, hey, there's this other shop across town that's looking for a fabricator. And I didn't get to do any fabrication really at this collision shop. I was trying to, but they didn't really have a need for it. They didn't understand why you need to do all that.
You never continued, like, you got out of Wyotech, and then, whatever TIG welding you learned, it was not being used at this time.
Dormant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I listened to this upholstery guy, and I was like, well, let's give me the guy's number. So I reached out to this guy, and I actually had heard about this guy on the other side of Kansas City. He was just a guy that had a shop behind his house. His name was Tony, and he was well known in the Kansas City area for building some pretty nice cars. So I was driving an hour one way to the collision shop, and then this old boy Tony hired me at night, and I was driving an hour to the other side of Kansas City to work at his shop from like 7 or I don't know what it was, 5, 6, 7 till 10 o'clock at night, and then an hour back home to the farm. And I would do that for a while. Well, then Tony told me about there's this other place on the south side of Kansas City, even further away, that is looking for TIG welders. And so Carriage Works was the name of that place. I don't think they're around anymore, but they used to do billet motorcycle wheels.
Okay.
And billet grills. You remember when the billet grills were real popular?
Oh, yeah.
You zip tie them in.
Yep.
So this was the place that made all of those.
Yep.
And I got a job TIG welding down there. At that time, I quit the collision shop. So now I was working at Carriage Works, TIG welding aluminum billet grills all day. Got really good at TIG welding aluminum. And going to work at Tony's at night. So I was doing that and then driving. I was like this triangle. I was driving 3 hours a day. And then the Kansas City World of Wheels show was coming up, and Tony had a couple of cars that they were restoring. He did a lot of Fords, so he did 32 Fords. He loved those. He had a 56 Ford wagon. Seems like he was always working on a Ford. And one of those, he had a Model A sedan in there, and it was a customer's. And, he was really one of the first guys to kind of give me a chance to try out some metalwork, some custom metalwork. And you'll laugh now, but, like, one of the first things I did was bead rolled some flames and some hood sides for a Model A.
Okay. Yeah.
And, it's shameful to bring it up now, but
straight out of the Summit catalog.
He loved it. He thought that was the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
I mean, and so then all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, can we make this? Can we make that? And I remember I made like this overhead console thing that had a CD player in it,
Mm-hmm.
but he loved the fact that we had somebody that could make stuff now.
Yeah.
Then he'd have me boxing frame rails on a truck or doing this or doing that. And I was just anything and everything I could get my hands on to fabricate. I was down to do it. Meanwhile, I was getting really good at TIG welding aluminum.
Yeah.
So the World of Wheels was coming up. He had a couple of cars to take to that show. And I heard that probably through an advertisement or something that Rad Rides by Troy was going to be there. And they're bringing the chicane. The World of Wheels usually, they'll advertise like the big top car that's going to be there. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going anyways. Might as well load up my coat with some sample welds.
Yeah.
And I took my photo album.
Yeah.
That was like physical photos. This was right when digital cameras came out.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a digital camera yet. And, but I just remember going to that show and seeing the chicane. You familiar with the chicane is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the chicane is a 62 Biscayne, twin turbo. To this day, it still looks like it could have been built yesterday.
Yeah.
I think somebody recently bought it finally, or they recently, Billet Specialties owned it forever.
Yeah.
And I believe he recently sold it. Somebody stole that car. I mean, it was like they got a really good deal on it.
Yeah.
But anyways, that car sitting in the middle of, can't remember the name of the building now, but anyways, downtown Kansas City on a, nice display, and it was, the nicest thing there. It just looked like a spaceship compared to everything else. And I remember Moose is Troy's, Rad Rides by Troy's guy that takes his cars to all the shows and stuff, and he was there, and he was talking to a dad and a son, and I was kind of just hanging back because I wanted to say something. I didn't know what I was going to say, but I think I was going to ask him if they were hiring or anything, but I overheard the dad and the boy. The dad was doing all the talking for the boy, and I was like, oh, this ain't going nowhere. The kid can't even speak for himself. Like, I'm just going to wait until they leave, and then I'm going to pounce, you know. And so it actually worked out in my favor. So, because I heard over their conversation that they were looking for a fabricator. And I was like, sweet, this is my in, And so.
You had the coupon, the welding.
They were in
examples.
my pocket.
Yeah,
so it was
you were ready.
It was freezing out, and I had this big parka on and just loaded with metal samples. You couldn't do that
How many
these days.
did you have in your pockets?
There was no metal detectors back then.
Yeah.
Probably like 6.
Just 6. Yeah, you're just ready to like bring out your Rolodex of like weld samples.
Yeah. Hey, I was like all in, whatever it takes. And so finally get to talk to Moose, and I'm just like, I know I got limited time here because he probably thinks I'm nobody, And so I was like, hey, I heard you guys were hiring a fabricator. Like, I just graduated from school, and I'm willing to go anywhere, to work on stuff like this. And he just kind of stopped and was like, well, come on in here and check out the car.
Yeah.
Stepped over this beautiful fence that's around the car. He opened the door and let me sit in the chicane.
Yeah.
And then he's like, he comes around the other side, and he's like, turns on the Eagles on the infotainment center with this massive stereo that sounded like, I've never heard anything sound so good in my life.
Yeah.
I think it was Diamond Audio. I don't know if you're a car audio guy, but it was.
I know of the world, though. Yeah.
At the time, it was like the best stuff you could get. And it sounded amazing. And he's just let me sit there and listen to it. I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. And so then I was like, well, can I bring some pictures over to show you? And he's like, yeah, yeah. So it was like a 3-day car show. So I come back the next day and bring him all the pictures and show him, and made an impression. Well, I guess evidently that night, first night, he must have told Troy about this kid, came up at the show, and I don't know what he said, but something got his attention. And so I was like, there was a connection there, and I didn't know where it was going, but I didn't want to lose that connection. And I remember, weeks went by, and I ended up following up. I called him and was like, hey, you guys think you might want to give me a chance or whatever. And so finally, I think I might have called a couple times. Finally, I get this phone call from Angie Trepanier, Troy's wife, and they basically said, we'd like to have you out for a couple days or something like that. And so I was like, cloud nine,
Yeah.
and just like, this is it.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Dude, they can make a movie out of your experience as the car door opens and, like, angels fly out of there.
Oh, that's what it was. It was like,
yeah.
I'm sitting there at this our farmhouse, and I get the call. It's like, here we go, baby. So
that's awesome.
But, yeah, so I went out to Manteno, Illinois, put everything I owned in my car. See you, Mom and Dad.
Man.
And Jack Trepanier, who's no longer with us, he arranged an apartment for me out there. So they had I stayed in the top part of a house, old lady's house. She rented the top part out, and it was the cheapest place in town. It was like $300 a month. And Jack found that for me and lined it up for me, so I didn't really have to. I didn't know how to do any of that.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just a young kid. Like, I don't know how to get an apartment. And so he was looking out for me and got me the best deal in town, basically.
Yeah.
And it was close. It was walking distance to the shop. So that was pretty cool. And, yeah, I just kind of hit the ground running. Well, I came out there first for an interview. It was like a 2-day interview. I asked for a couple days off work. And
was it like a working interview?
Yeah. And it was funny. I showed up on, I think it was a Friday, and I showed up in slacks and tucked in, button down, long sleeve shirt with a tie. And they're looking at me like, who's this kid? Because that's at WildTech, that's how in the business class, that's how they taught us to present ourselves.
Yeah. And meanwhile, you're around a bunch of car people.
Yeah,
with
I walk
black
in,
shirts.
I walk in. I'll never forget it. To this day, I walk in and Troy's over working on the lathe, and he kind of peeks up, and he's over there. Like, who's this kid? And so, anyways, they kind of gave me a hard time about that. But then I basically just was like, well, "What do you want me to do? I can show you how I can weld or whatever." And so they're just like, "Yeah, whatever." So I started just welding stuff together, and just trying to prove myself. And they didn't really give me a test or anything. It was just kind of like, you're on your own, dude. Like, figure it out. Like, there was no formal examination or test or anything. It was just.
And were you sweating bullets the whole time?
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I don't remember everything that I did during the interview. I know it was a lot of welding and stuff, and I was just head down working, just trying to show that, like, I'm for real, I'm serious, I'm not going back, And I remember it was a Sunday, I was getting ready to leave, and I just, Troy was just real casual, like, he wasn't ready to make a decision or anything, and I was just, like, looking for an answer.
Yeah.
And I remember asking him, we're walking through the shop, and I remember asking him, well, do you want me to come back or what? And he goes, you can come back if you want to.
Yeah. Just like.
And that's it. And that's what I did. I mean, I put in my 2 weeks notice.
Yeah.
And loaded up my car with everything I owned and moved to Manteno, Illinois.
Man, that's how old are you then?
21.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pivotal moment. And obviously the name we're talking about is huge in the industry.
Still.
It was big back then.
Yeah.
Just continues on to this day. And, like, to be a 21-year-old to change your whole life around for that chance.
Yeah.
Like, that's something that I think, like, a lot of kids that are, I shouldn't say kids, I mean, they're young adults, whatever you want to say, but, like, you know, that might be the route you have to take, and
Yeah.
like go take that opportunity like that and
Yeah.
put yourself out there.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, think about it. Like, I was 21. Troy's 10 years older than me. So he was 31 and he was already killing it.
Yeah.
You know, most people aren't killing it when they're 31.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's still killing it.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I'll be 44 this year.
Yeah.
And I've always been kind of a late bloomer in life in all regards.
Okay.
So I keep that in mind for myself, because you can get discouraged when you look back at somebody like that and see all the success that they've had
For
and
sure.
everything. And then you're like, oh man, I'm 10 years older than he was when he was successful.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's just kind of been like something that's been part of my life, is I've kind of come into things later than most people do. I don't know. It's just something I've noticed about my life.
Yeah, but we all go through different
Yeah.
trajectories, you know.
Right.
Sometimes I've felt the same way about like different parts of my life and stuff like that, and like I'm going through a different moment in my life, and it's like, yeah, I've done now 40. This is episode 47, I think, 46, and after I listen to all these people and you hear the trajectories, it's like, whatever person, Christian Sosa, like it took whatever in his life to get to that point.
Yeah.
And like that could have veered off in any point
Yeah.
and went a different route.
Right. Yeah. So, you know, I feel like I still got a long ways to go.
Yeah.
I still got a lot of energy, and I got a lot of things I want to do. But that was where I cut my teeth at Rad Rides by Troy, and so I worked there for 8.5 years.
Man.
And you know, when I started there, I was still real basic. You know, I had the drive, I had the gasoline in my blood, I had the creativity. I just needed the tools,
Yeah.
and obviously he had the clientele that was top notch, and they wanted stuff that nobody else had, and they were willing to, you know, pay big bucks to win awards and things like that. And so it took me a minute to figure out where I kind of fell into place at the shop.
Yeah.
I remember I hired on there one week, and then Andy Leach, you know Andy Leach?
Yeah.
So
I don't know him personally.
Cal
I
Auto,
know of him.
Cal
Yeah,
Auto
yeah.
Creation. So he worked at Rad Rides too, and he hired on about a week after I did. And so the both of us were brand new at that shop.
Yeah.
And he had some experience already. I think he worked at Ride Tech for a minute, and he was already really into cars. He had been customizing his own stuff. But I, on the other hand, was a lot fresher to the scene.
Do you know how old Andy was at the time?
I think he's a year or two older than me. So he was probably 23 or 24.
Okay. What a time period, too.
Yeah. Well, so it was me, Andy Leach, Jared Zimmerman. You know Jared?
Yeah,
So
I don't know him. I know of the name.
Yeah, so he's been on Car Fix and a lot of other shows. Let's see, I'm trying to think who else. Moose, Warren Lewis, who's still his painter to this day. Really good body man painter. Alex is still there. So a lot of those guys aren't well known in the industry, but some of them were. So it was like
Tyler at some point.
Tyler didn't work there with me. He was in the area, so him and his brother moved in. I want to say 2006ish or 5, somewhere around there. So him and his brother moved to town to work at this other body shop down the road. And that body shop was known for doing some really nice custom paint work, because Bob Thrash was down there and stuff. And Bob Thrash would come down and hang out at Rad Rides by Troy. And he was like, I mean, you talk about a talented dude. He's one of the most talented people I've ever seen. I mean, I don't know if anybody knows this, but he beat Chip Foose in an art contest at SEMA one year.
Whoa.
Like, way back in the day. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Super talented dude. I mean, he's got mechanical ideas that you would never dream of. I mean, and he can actually build it too. Yeah. But he's awesome custom painter. So he was kind of bouncing from shop to shop. And then Adam Kraus and Tyler moved to the area, and Tyler was working at the shop down the street and kind of helping at Rad Rides, I think, every now and then. And then Adam got hired full-time at Rad Rides for a while. So I got to know him real well. And then, I'm trying to think.
That's quite a group of people.
Yeah.
Throughout those years. Like, they were big, great names then, and it's just like I've been connecting dots
Yeah,
as I
yeah.
go through. You
Yeah.
know, I kind of see the California scene and some of the people that, you know, all the dots that connect there. Now I'm
Yeah.
seeing Kansas and seeing
Yeah.
like some of the
Midwest. Yeah.
because like when I think of Kansas, like even when you were describing the guy that was slick and like he always stayed clean, but he was efficient.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, I'm just thinking of the Kansas area
Yeah.
and like the kind of people that were growing up in that, you know, that I mean,
Yeah.
you've got Salinas,
Yeah.
right? What was it, the KKOA show over there where there's like all custom cars,
Oh, yeah.
custom Kemps of America,
Yeah.
and like that whole genre was huge in
Oh,
that
yeah.
area.
Oh yeah. So Jared Zimmerman was from Kansas. I was from Missouri. Krauses are from Wisconsin.
Yeah. Wisconsin, a lot of names coming from
yeah.
there. I mean, Roadster Shop, right? I think
Illinois.
Illinois, yeah.
They're north of there, so Mundelein, yeah. But yeah, I mean, you know, Midwest boys, you know, wintertime you ain't got nothing to do but work on a hot rod. So, you know, you close the doors and just figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Very different from Florida.
Yeah.
Here we got great weather all year.
Yeah.
Out there, you got a pretty good season.
Yeah. So, you know, I remember I was at Troy's, and one of the first things they put me on was making these inner splash pans, which to Troy was probably like, this is a pretty simple task.
Yeah.
He ought to be able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I struggled, and he wanted it a very specific way. And, you know, well, the mailbox thing, I told him I knew how to hammer form, and he was like, well, can you hammer form this flange on here and do this? And I was like, yeah, I can do that. Well, those things kicked my butt. Mm-hmm. And so basically I was taking way too long, and I knew it. And I remember to this day, like, feeling bad about taking too long. Because I could, you know, I was getting, like, the death stares walking by. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, you know, I don't know how long they took, but they took way too long.
Yeah.
And so they were nice about it. They didn't really poke at me too much at that point, which they do sometimes, you know.
Yeah,
You start to become a family, they start, you know, letting you have it a little bit. But I remember, you know, they kind of subtly pulled me off of that project. And there was this 32 Ford Roadster Brookville body sitting there that nobody touched since I started. And he was like, you know, let's look at this project and see what we can do over here. Mm-hmm. And it had not been started yet at all. It was just a brand new body sitting on brand new Posies frame rails. And it was just a vision. And Troy had never done a 32 Ford. Well, they did the all-wheel drive one. But other than that, they had never done this one. The customer wanted like a traditional 32 Ford.
Okay.
And that was kind of where it started for me. This was a chance for me to kind of like, because the 40 Ford that we were working on, it was a spaceship. Mm-hmm. And it was, I don't know if it was like, it was probably over my head at the time for what I was capable of doing. Like, just a lot of tricky shapes and abstract stuff going on. Whereas this 32 Ford, it was a little easier, I think, for me to wrap my head around. And, you know, traditional style, it's just a body sitting on a frame. And but what we started modifying it, and one of the things that we found out real quick was that we were going to have to modify the rear frame rails. And so at the time, Roadster Shop was around at that time. I believe the brothers, Jeremy and Phil, had recently acquired the company, or their dad. They'd recently bought it out around that time, I think. And I remember they came by one time and we gave them a little tour, but you know, they were making street rod frame rails and making them out of 4/2 and grinding the corners and stuff. And I had seen that, you know, I knew that's how they were making them. So I was like, I can do that. You know, I can make frame rails. So I made the back half frame rails for that 32 Ford and basically grafted them all in where you couldn't tell that they were grafted in. And they had a real elegant swoopy shape, and they kicked up real high so the car could sit a lot lower with, I think it had 19-inch rear wheels, but they look like Steely wheels, but Billet Specialties custom made these one-off wheels.
Okay.
They look like a 40 Ford Steely, but they were billet. Mm-hmm. And they had the beauty ring was machined into the wheel. But they still used a regular hubcap, and it had the big bias ply tires on it.
Sorry, I'm going to adjust this hat. This new hat you gave me, I'm a little tight right here.
Okay.
So
Yeah, sure.
keep going.
Yeah. So making the frame rails was like the first kind of aha moment for me. And I think Troy, it was for him too. Like, okay, this kid's got some skills, you know, let's do this, you know. And so we built built that car, and some of the other cool things I got to do on that car was I built the hood from scratch.
Yeah.
You know, it's flat. It's basically just form. There's no compound curve to a 32 Ford hood. But I patterned it all out. It was made like, I want to say it was 3 or 4 inches longer than stock.
Yeah.
We used a piano hinge off of an MG because we could get it longer. The 32 Ford one you couldn't get longer at the time. And so we used an MG hinge, which is real similar to a 32 Ford. And there's a lot of cool little subtle details on that car that it kept it timeless. But basically, I made the hood from scratch, and I made it look just like a 32 Ford with the body lines and the hinge and everything, and you wouldn't know the difference if you weren't like a 32 connoisseur.
Okay.
And so there was that. I made these press forms for the dash. So it had a 33 Plymouth gauge cluster, and then it had these dimples on the sides, and those were press formed in. And so that was a cool trick that I was able to show them what I could do.
Yeah.
And at that point I haven't really got into the Polemax much, except I think I did on the hood. I did the Polemax bead on the hood. That was probably the first thing I ever did on the Polemax. So yeah, Troy had a Polemax machine. It was a P5, just kind of sitting over in the corner. And nobody was using it. Nobody knew how to use it, really. I mean, they had one. Obviously, they knew that it could do something.
Yeah.
But nobody in the shop was really using it. And so I started using it, and I want to say that 32 Ford body line was probably the first thing I ever stamped on a Polemax. And then...
Was that like your first exposure to a Polemax?
I mean, they had one at Wildtech, but I never got to use it at Wildtech. So that was my first time using one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just winging it. I knew what it could do, but I didn't know how to do it.
Was it intimidating at first, or?
Probably a little bit. I mean, it's a big machine. They can be intimidating. It's a big machine. It's, I'm not the biggest guy. So it's very violent, so holding on to a big piece of metal going through this machine that's just vibrating like crazy. That can be tricky to get used to. But you kind of got to learn how to go with it. Don't fight it too much, so, but yeah, there's so much you can do with a Polemax. And then eventually we outgrew the P5 and he got a P21 and they still have that one, and I have a P21 now also, but yeah, there's so much you can do. I mean, we're constantly still to this day we're making dies for our own tools, and we can get into that later. If you want tools, we can talk tools later. But so yeah, rad rides doing that 32 Ford. So I basically did. I hesitate saying all because it's a team effort. Yeah. Like I realize but I did a lot. I did if not all, I did most of the metal fabrication on that car. And if you look at the car today, it's a very famous car, I should say. It won Street Route of the Year, I think, in 2003, and it won top 75 32 Ford of all time. It's won pretty much, I think it's won every top Roadster award except for America's Most Beautiful Roadster. But very iconic car, timeless car. Like people that know 32 Fords, they know that car. Yeah. And
so this was the car that really set you off in your trajectory was, you knew where you were going.
Yeah, and I was at the time I really like stuff from Art Deco era.
Yeah.
And this was all, I was living, breathing Art Deco. Like that's what my mind was thinking. I remember it had like this little south wind heater in it that we converted to a radio, and it had the ignition switch in the middle, so it was no longer a heater, but it just had that Art Deco cool look from the 40s. So the car is a 32 Ford, but hot rods didn't really start until the 40s after World War II. The guys would come back from the war with all these new skills, and they wanted to put them to use, so they'd start building hot rods, and whether they were racing them on the East Coast or the West Coast, they were just making things go faster.
Yeah.
And so the idea with this 32 Ford is to build it like it was done in the late 40s, early 50s, and kind of keep that era correct look to it. And so at that time, I was into all that stuff. And
Art Deco was a beautiful, especially in car design.
Yeah.
Dude, the stuff that was like being built that was Art Deco in those time, whether it was like gauge clusters or like center console pieces, like that styling, like really, I feel like it like really grabbed the
Oh yeah.
person, and it was like beautiful.
Oh yeah.
A light, a little corner light on like your B pillar post or something would have some kind of little shape to it,
Oh
and
yeah.
having that Art Deco styling, it
It's
grabbed me too.
it's
I
cool.
felt
I
the
don't know how
same.
you couldn't like it. I mean,
Yeah.
all that stuff is cool.
Hmm.
So yeah. And then that car went on to win a bunch of awards. It was really cool. I even got to do some machine work, so I was learning how to do the Bridgeport mill at that time. And Troy had one, and it was really clapped out and sloppy. But you just learned how to use the sloppiness to your
Uh-huh.
favor. You
Yeah.
kind of had to plan for it. And we'd tell him you need to get a new one. He's like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just fine. And but the intake, it had a flathead. So this 32 had I believe it was a 49 Mercury flathead that was hopped up, and I think it was, I don't know, 270 horse or something like that. Not much, but that was a lot for a flathead.
Yeah.
And but Troy wanted to. If Troy does something, he's going to do it, but we ain't going to do it like everybody else does it. We're going to put our spin on it, and so he wanted to do an electronic fuel injection and have it computer controlled and everything, but not be able to tell that it was computer controlled. So I got to have part in making the intake manifold for this flathead that was all computer controlled fuel injection. So it was an original Hillborn 8-stack injection, which if you know anything about those, they're rare as hen's teeth.
Yeah.
But I think George Poteet found one for him because George Poteet was into all the 32 Fords and everything too. I mean, he probably had 100 of them, but he had all the speed parts and stuff too, and he found one for this other customer. So next thing you know, I'm over on the Bridgeport modifying this vintage Hillborn intake and adding to it with weld and smoothing it out and all this stuff.
On that one.
Yeah. So I got pretty good at running a manual mill and a lathe because I didn't know how to do mill or lathe either at school. They didn't have that stuff at Wyotech when I went there. And Troy taught me all that stuff. I mean, and I was just learning as quick as I could. So I would have to credit him for all of my machining ability.
Yeah.
Because I learned all that stuff from him just on the fly. And he'd be like, "Oh yeah, it ain't that hard," and I'd be like, "Okay, here we go," And but yeah, I mean, I got a picture of it somewhere, but that intake manifold, it had a bunch of these little bitty German injectors in there, and all of the lines I had to make custom benders to make the bends tight enough for these fuel lines. So the fuel lines were brake lines, 3/16 brake lines.
Yeah.
They were all AN fittings underneath this intake manifold. And there was very limited space in there to package all of it. So I got really good at like thinking things through and how to package things.
Yeah.
That's something that Troy's really good at, is packaging things. Making things invincible that most people just leave out in the open. That's
a lot right there.
Trick.
Yeah.
It's a real trick. So that's what he's really good at.
So you were really like, man, your skill set was blowing up.
Yeah.
Because now you're into machining.
Yeah.
You're pushing the limits of whatever you thought you knew.
Yeah.
And then design, like that's an explosion of like skill set in one place right there.
Yeah. So speaking of design, like I love designing. If you were to ask me what am I as a fabricator, I would say I'm a design engineer fabricator.
Yeah.
And I hadn't on that 32 Ford, I didn't really have a lot of opportunities to display my design capabilities. I had to kind of earn that, and I think it's important to earn that, because you can't just let anybody and everybody design something, because sometimes, dude, that looks stupid.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of.
Trust me, it comes up on the podcast all the time.
Yeah.
And some of these things that we start off as like, yesterday's podcast, it was the same thing about like lace, lace on custom paint. And it's like, it's a great starter, but you can't use that forever for everything or put it everywhere on anything. And it's like, there's a lot of stuff that, whether it's metal work or anything like that, it's a great starter, Like
Yeah.
you have to start taking that
Well,
design.
it's like the flames in the hood side, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, I got that out of my system,
Uh-huh.
but now it's time to move on to bigger and better things,
Yeah.
you know. And
Uh-huh.
so I think there's a progression that needs to happen if you want to be a designer, and you have to be willing to take your ideas out back and shoot them.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
the thing is, the flames, that's still like a good thing to do and to like learn, because now, okay, you get some flames, and if you can make something look halfway decent, like you just increase your skill set.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, it's like eventually you got to go, okay, I can't put flames on every single thing
Right.
that's out there.
Yeah.
You know, there's going to be a time and place for that thing.
Yeah, and very, you know, I love flames, you know, but they have a place.
Mhm.
And so far, I would say my whole career, I haven't worked anywhere that's put flames on anything.
Really, yeah.
You know, so, but then the next one I think that I worked on was the Riddler car. I think I mean, there was probably little jobs in between.
Yeah,
I did
yeah.
I did an exhaust system. Did my first like mandrel bent exhaust system on a '63 Impala. Or no, it was a '63 Biscayne with air ride on it. I remember that took forever. I took way too long on that. So at the time, Troy only had one 4-post lift, and Moose was usually always doing something on the 4-post lift, and everything else was on jack stands. So that's the other thing. Like, my guys at my shop are spoiled. Like, we've got like 4 lifts.
Yeah.
Well, I've got like more than that.
Mhm.
I've got 3 2-post lifts, a 4-post lift, and a 3-car lift. Well, I've got a bunch of lifts.
Yeah.
I didn't have that luxury
Mhm.
at Troy's. He, you know, when I first started working there, he had bare minimum, you know, but he was able to do some amazing stuff
Yeah.
with very little.
Mhm.
And that's still possible today. You just got to put your mind to it.
Mhm.
But I'll never forget building that exhaust system on my back on a creeper for weeks. And, you know, that, I don't know if you're familiar with well, yeah, '63 Biscayne. It's a big car.
Oh yeah.
And their X-frame car,
Mhm.
there's nowhere to route the exhaust.
Yeah.
And you've got air ride that has to articulate up and down and clear everything.
Mhm.
The exhaust has to go over the axle, and it's 2.5-inch tubing,
Mhm.
and it was a big block. And I just remember, like, it took forever.
Yeah.
And I think it took me at least 3 weeks to do this exhaust system.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, man. And trust me, I've built plenty of exhaust systems, stainless, all that, and it's like there's a lot of work that goes into them, you
Yeah.
know. But like, yeah, I remember the first time it took me probably close to that.
Yeah.
You know, I usually get them done in about a week now.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, and
yeah.
car size makes a
Yeah.
big factor in the whole thing, and how crazy do you want to go with
Yeah.
it, you know? But yeah, man, that's
That was another
hard.
one of those scowling moments every time they walk by. Just kind of like, "Are you done yet?"
You're
But-
feeling it every time
Yeah.
you walk by.
It was painful,
Yeah,
but
that's good for you though.
But that was good for me also. Like, okay, this took way too long. Let's say it was 3 weeks. Well, now if I can do it in a week and a half, I'm doing pretty good.
yeah, uh-huh.
You know. And now I even use
Yeah.
that with my guys. Like, I know about how long it should take to do a big car, a small car,
Yeah,
and if it takes you a little longer on your first one, okay.
yeah.
But you know, you need to get closer to doing it in a week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
and I've also learned it's really hard to do a full mandrel bent TIG welded exhaust in less than 40 hours.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
and
You're
explain-
really in that 40, 50,
Yeah.
60, am I going to do a brush finish
Yeah.
on it? Am I, because you're purging everything,
Yeah.
you're fitting everything to that car.
yeah, and explaining to the customer why is it $5-6 grand.
Yeah.
You know? But
Yeah. Your
that's-
parts are a lot too.
Yeah.
That stainless isn't good stainless.
Yeah.
It's not cheap.
Yeah.
V-bands, all that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, it's
It
expensive.
all adds
Yeah,
up.
Yeah. So so I did a few little jobs in between, and then we started working on the Riddler car for Ross Myers. It was a 36 Ford 3-window coupe, and another shop had started some work on it. Well, we tore it all apart and basically just reset the whole thing. And his goal was to win the Riddler from the get-go. And so that's something else I'd like to bring up. So I've been a part of 2 Riddler winners so far, and both of them have started out with the mindset of, this is what we're trying to achieve, and we're going for it, and we're doing it no matter what.
Yeah.
Like, There's no, if I run out of money, no, it was like,
There's no backing out.
there
We're
was
going.
no, how much is this going to cost?
Yeah.
Basically, endless budget, if you want to call it that. And it's got to be the best of the best. And the biggest thing is the mindset from the beginning. You know, every once in a while I'll run into a client that has a project halfway started or something, and they want to be like, well, can we take it and win the Riddler? No, you're going to lose because you didn't have a plan from the beginning.
Yeah.
You didn't have this thought out from the get-go, because I guarantee you somebody else does. And so that would be my advice. If you want to win a top award like something like that, you better have that mindset from the beginning.
Yeah.
And you better have the wallet to back it up.
It's high expectations all the way around, including the people working on the car.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But you talk about an experience of a lifetime. So I got started on that car. So the frame rails on the 32 Ford was kind of my cutting my teeth on making a custom, basically whatever shape you want out of a frame rail. But this time on this 36 Ford, I made the entire frame rail, but this time it had rounded corners. So, you know, the 32 Ford was like this. The 36 Ford was like this.
Okay.
And the way we were able to do that was with the Pullmax. And so I made a custom die for the Pullmax where it did a quarter round and just stamped the edge of this 10 gauge steel, 10 gauge.
That's a lot, yeah.
I mean, it's over 1/8 inch.
Yeah.
And so that was like a wow moment for us at Troy's, where it was like, yeah, we're doing that.
That's cool, yeah.
And so we made the whole frame rails for this 36 Ford with rounded corners, and it was just organic and swoopy, and you know, it's Art Deco again.
Yeah.
And so the whole styling behind this car was Art Deco, but it was going to be traditional, Art Deco, low slung, elegant, and you know, the colors and everything were going to be elegant. And this was probably one of my first opportunities to design, you know, or show some of my design capabilities, you know, laying out the shape of the frame rail or whatever. And I got to think through also, one of the goals with this car was to have it where it had minimum visible fasteners anywhere on the car. So I think there was a total of 7 fasteners that you could see on the whole car when it was done.
That's awesome.
And that is hard to do. So you have to think through differently. How is this going to assemble? How is it going to be sturdy enough? How is it going to look the best from the underside, the inside? How is the interior going to go in over all of this?
Yeah.
Because most of the bolts had to be accessible underneath the upholstery. So you'd take out the upholstery and all the bolts would be inside where you couldn't see them. And so I figured out on that car, we decided, you know, normally they have bolt-on running boards. Well, that car, if you ever see that car, which a lot of people have never seen that car because it only went to like 2 shows, and now it's in a private collection in Pennsylvania. But the running boards are part of the body now.
Okay.
And so the rear fenders come off, but the running boards stay attached to the cab, and they're double skinned. So the previous year we went to Detroit with the 32 Ford, and we paid attention to the Riddler winners because we knew we were going to be competing soon. And there was a 40 or 41 Willis coupe out there that won. I believe it won. You know, and you get, you know, was it the best car or not? I don't know. But the one thing that helped them win was they had double skinned inner fenders everywhere. So basically it wasn't just an outer fender. It was a outer fender with an inner fender. Yeah. Metal. You know, all skinned and hand formed and everything. So we decided we're doing that. And so I formed, I don't know if I did all of them. I did a lot of it. So at that time, I started the fabrication on that project, the frame. I forget some of the things I did. I did the dash, which the dash looked like, it was super Art Deco looking. It looked like a Lincoln Zephyr dash on steroids.
Okay.
And I even, I designed the instrument. So Classic Instruments made it for us, but I sketched it out, and I had this idea of, you like vintage stuff.
Yeah.
So I like vintage or antique stuff, like appliances and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I used to be into that. I'm not anymore now. I'm married now. I can't have all that stuff. But when I was single, I would go to antique stores and just find this cool looking 40s and 50s stuff. and it just had this cool design. Well, had this bathroom scale from like the 1950s, and it had like this thick globe dome in the middle.
Okay.
And when you stepped on it, the numbers would go by, and the numbers would get bigger because they were
that's cool.
magnified.
Yeah.
And so I was like, we got to do that on the dash. And so I made the lens for this. It was like a bubble, basically, but it was thick acrylic. And I machined it on the lathe, sanded and polished it to where it was crystal clear. And then Classic Instruments made all the guts for it. And so they made it so that it had a dial that spun. Instead of a needle, it had a dial. The needle stayed still and the dial spun.
Whoa, man, that's cool.
Yeah. and it did the same thing. It made it look magnified as it spins. So most people don't know that.
That's pretty wild.
It was super cool. And it's cool to be able to come up with the idea and execute it and build the dash, and I'm really proud to be a part of that. That was a really cool part.
How much time do you think was in just that piece there?
Days and days. I mean, to machine that piece, and because once you start polishing it, now it becomes very delicate.
Yeah.
You can't set it down anywhere. I mean, you got to set it on a perfectly clean rag every time you set it down. And then you have to handle it everywhere you go with it. You got to be gentle with it, because one little false move and you got to start over. You know, so
we're going to so many different aspects.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling, it's like I'm in my head, it's like I'm looking at just like it's all condensed. Like all the stuff you were going through, like to figure out.
Yeah, and I was excelling as a craftsman. I didn't really know it at the time. I was just like living the dream.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, I guess there was a little bit of pressure. Like I remember feeling, you know, why do I always got to do the hard stuff? But at the same time, I'm like, I should have been, why do I get to do the hard stuff? Because, I was being pushed, because I think Troy probably saw, like, okay, this kid's got some ability. We're just going to keep going. And there's other guys in the shop, too. It wasn't just me.
Yeah.
Other guys in the shop are super talented. Andy Leach was part of that project, too.
Yeah.
He made the rear suspension. If you guys ever see it, it looks crazy. And, you know, this was all before... I mean, it wasn't before CAD design, but they were just getting started with CAD design and machining stuff at Troy's.
It was all pretty much manual for the most part.
Very manually, analog fabrication, a lot of grinding, a lot of welding. But, dude, we could make anything.
Yeah.
I mean, Andy Leach made this beautiful rear end and took a Winter's quick change rear end and made it look like a spaceship. I mean... It's impressive. Yeah. And
then you're feeding off all that too, though.
Yeah, we're all feeding off of each other.
Yeah.
Adam Banks was there for part of it. He's still there. He's a super talented dude. He can do pretty much anything you ask him to do with excellence.
Him on Instagram, and I'm just like, dude, that stuff is...
Yeah, he's from another planet.
Yeah.
Like he's...
Yeah.
So getting to work with him, he was there for a while, and then he went away for a few years and then came back. Super talented dude. But yeah, and then that car came together with, and then Dan Houlihan was there. I don't know if you know him. He had his own shop, or I don't know if he still has his own shop, but he's a very good fabricator. And so it was him, Andy Leach, Adam Banks, me, Jared Zimmerman, you know, and then at the end we all come together to make this thing happen. You know, and it was like a really tight team. You know, we didn't all always get along. But we rose to the occasion.
Yeah.
And did it for the greater cause, you know, of winning this big award. And the customer was the best. I mean, he's one of the best guys that I've ever interacted with as a customer. I mean, I mean, I could go down a trail.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
You know, after we won, you know, we won. Okay, so here's a crazy thing. I was telling Jeremy earlier today. Story. So that car, the Riddler car, got painted 7 days before the show. I'm not kidding. Like 7 days, and then basically the whole thing came together in 7 days. Now it wasn't 7 10-hour days. It was nonstop.
It was
round
7
the
days.
clock. It was 7 days.
It should have been 10 days.
Yeah. No, it should have
The
been
math
like
doesn't math,
should have been
though.
like 30 days.
Yeah.
It was like 30 days condensed
Yeah.
into 7 days. I mean, I remember Jack bought us cots so we
Mhm.
could just you get tired, go take a couple hour nap or whatever,
Yeah.
and then get back at it.
Mhm.
And I mean, it was nuts.
But what day were you delirious?
Probably by day 2 or 3,
Yeah.
you're just getting
Yeah.
a little loopy
Yeah.
and
Usually 32 hours in, you
Yeah.
start getting.
yeah.
You can
And
you can function,
yeah.
but things start getting weird.
Your feet start getting tingly.
Yeah. Yeah. Your brain's like. You're capable. Like you realize how capable you are of
Yeah.
amazing things
Yeah.
because you've lost your mind,
Yeah.
but you're still doing it
Yeah.
somehow.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, it is wild. Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like slow motion, but not like you just, I don't know. I've had a few of those times at Troy's thrash times, and
Yeah.
I'm glad I did them. I'm glad I was like exposed to having to do something on a deadline. Like we're doing this. And I remember Troy saying, and this is what I tell my guys now, because my guys, we're just now experiencing our first deadline for SEMA.
Yeah.
And but at Troy's, it was known, hey, this is going to be a regularly occurring thing, at least once a year,
Yeah.
if not multiple times a year. And if we say we're going, we're not going to miss it.
Yeah.
You know, there's no turning back. We're going to figure it out, and we're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
And so that's hard to do,
Yeah.
you know?
So this is again, I keep going back to like the most formidable time. It was like you're gaining so much experience. You're being, I don't want to say tested. You could say in a way you're being tested. Like
Yeah.
you're being tested in your resilience and like the skill levels that you didn't think you even had. And it's like when I think about those time periods, I always think of like even the times that it sucks and you're just like, oh man, why am I doing this? And you get frustrated, or then something goes wrong, you get more frustrated and all that stuff. It's like when you can walk out of that, I feel like that's the real superpower right there.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not necessarily that you're going to dive back into that, but like you've already been through, I don't want to describe it as the worst because it was great. And it could have been the worst at the same time.
A hard thing.
Yeah,
Like
but
going through something hard.
but coming out the other side of that
Yeah.
is like, there's not really much that can, affect you after that.
No, you can't learn that anywhere else.
Yeah.
You can't go to school to learn that.
Mhm.
You know. Yeah, I would say there's probably a lot of people who go through hard stuff and they probably say, yeah, I came out a better person on the other side or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So was that the time period? So now going from Troy, where did you go after that?
Okay, so I was Rad Rides for 8.5 years, and then I moved to Texas. So I got an opportunity. So this is where Tyler comes back in. So at that time, so I left Troy's around 2011, I guess, somewhere around there. And working at Troy's is like their family.
Yeah.
And the good, bad, and the ugly. And sometimes family wears on you or whatever. You get tired of them, and you just, life had a different path for me.
Yeah.
And so I love Troy to death. I still keep in touch with him.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm going to meet with his boy tomorrow for lunch. But
that's cool.
But I'm very grateful for the opportunities that were presented to me there, and kind of springboarding off of that.
Yeah.
Per se. But it got to a point where I was like, is this where I'm supposed to be still, or whatever? And I remember I was sitting out in my car one day and just kind of praying, Lord, is this where I'm supposed to be? If not, send me a sign, kind of thing. Like, if you want me to go do something else, let me know.
Yeah.
And then no sooner did I forget what I just prayed, and I get this random phone call from Tyler Krause. And I didn't really know him that well.
Yeah.
But I knew who he was.
Uh-huh.
I knew his brother more, and Adam was working there at that time. And so I'm like, why is Tyler calling me? I answer the phone, and he said, hey, how's it going? He's like, I'm working down here at this shop in Texas, and they're looking to see, if I knew a fabricator. Well, he didn't even ask me like if I wanted to go work down there. He didn't come out and say it like that.
Yeah.
It was like, well, you wouldn't happen to know any fabricators that would maybe want to move to Texas, do you? It was kind of like that.
So kind of like the story I was telling you with Connie.
Yeah.
You know, she's going through this time period, and all of a sudden it was like that.
Yeah, they didn't like cold call me and say, hey, you want to come work down here? It wasn't that. It was like, hey, you wouldn't happen to know anybody that is looking for a job, would you?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I sure don't, dude. Sorry. Click, you know. And then it dawned on me a couple days later, like, maybe he's talking about me.
Yeah.
You know. And so then you know, I ran it by a couple of my close friends before I told my wife, which is, I always get flack for that. But I had just recently been married, and so I had two good buddies, though, in the area. They were car guys, and, I could tell these guys anything. And I ran it by them first because I was like, I just want some advice here, like, should I do this, or what do you guys think? And they're like, no, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. You can't go anywhere. We'll miss you and all this. And one of them said, why don't you, if you're not happy at Troy's or whatever, why don't you go apply at Roadster Shop? They're not too far away. So I did. I applied at Roadster Shop. Well, I didn't, I knew them already kind of, and I made a phone call or a text or whatever, and they were interested in interviewing me because they knew about my skills and what I was capable of, but and they were just starting to grow big time. And talked to my wife about it, and no, you can't go. We're not going to Texas, never, And then next thing you know, we're down working on my house. You're talking about remodeling stuff. I had a house that was from the 70s, and we were remodeling it, basically getting it ready to sell. Well, this is like shortly after 2008, and not going to make any money on my house, basically. And they're building brand new houses right next door for the same price. Why would they want to buy my house, kind of thing? And so it was a really bad time to be selling a house. But we were down there working on it, and I was thinking, what? If this guy in Texas really wants to hire me, I wish he'd call me himself. That's what I was thinking to myself.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of frustrated about the whole thing. And I went to go get a sandwich while we were working on the house, and sure enough, while I was out, he gives me a call, and he's like, well, what do you think about moving to Texas, And so I was like, well, I can't really, I like the idea of it, but I'm not sure how that's going to happen because I have a house that we got to sell. My wife has a condo that she has to sell, and I'm just not sure how we could, have both of those for sale and, move down there.
Yeah.
But anyways, he invited me down. And that's where Tyler was working at the time, which was Hot Rods of Andis.
Okay.
And so they had a Riddler car that they were wanting to do, and I didn't think that they really, I wasn't sure if they knew what they were saying. Like they knew that I had experience winning with Troy.
Yeah.
And basically I went down there, interviewed, and it all worked out, but. So anyways, I moved to Texas to go work down there, and I worked there for 5 years. And basically the whole time I was there, most of the time was working on this Riddler car. So I don't know if we're ready to go down that path yet, but yeah. So I remember I was down there working on my house, and I had these like butterflies in my stomach, knots, like because I was getting ready to go meet with the guys at Roadster Shop.
Yeah.
And I just felt sick to my stomach about it for some reason. Not anything against those guys, but it just something was telling me this ain't right. And I called them, or I texted them, or called them, or something, and said, guys, I'm not going to be meeting with you this weekend. I said, I'm sorry, I'm going a different direction.
Yeah.
And so, what would have happened if I went to Roadster Shop?
Who knows?
Who
knows?
They're doing just fine without me, I'll say that.
Yeah, they're doing good. They're doing great. That's for sure, know. But, like, the trajectories in life, man.
Yeah.
It's you never know. You just really don't know. And it's not to say one won't work out, better than the other. I'm sure both routes would have worked out for you. and for the people that you would have gone to work for. But man, I mean, there's still so many connecting dots to all of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's
And
wild.
and at the time, I wasn't thinking at all about starting my own business. I was just thinking, where am I going to go be a fabricator and do what I like and
Yeah.
keep that going,
Mhm.
That's all that was on my mind at the time, but God had other plans. You know, I've said that in the past, and people kind of wonder, what do you mean God had other plans? You stole you away from Troy's or this or that. How is that God's plan? Well, I don't fully know. Like,
Yeah.
I don't see the big picture, but
Mhm.
I can't really explain how sometimes things work out, and it's meant to be.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like it got to the point with my wife because she was fighting it the whole time. She's like, "No, we're not going." And she had this cush job working at a bank in downtown Chicago and making more money than I was making. And like, why would we quit that?
Yeah.
That didn't make any sense.
Mhm.
And so she kept putting up all these barriers. And she would say this even today. This is
Yeah.
how we tell the story. But she kept putting up all these walls, and God kept leveling them.
Mhm.
And he made a way, you know what I mean? Like, we went down there to Texas and we are saying, we got all these houses to sell, and he's like, "Well, I got a 1,800-acre ranch you can come live on for free until your
Yeah.
houses sell."
Man.
And I looked at my wife, I was like, "What do you think about that, honey?"
That's awesome, man. But so like, when you think about like making these decisions and everything, and like you're saying, trusting in God and all that stuff, I always found it that when you kind of let go,
yeah,
because you like to think you have control
yeah, you don't have
of
control.
all of that,
Yeah.
and it's like the more you think you have control, and this is whoever's listening, whether you believe in God, however whatever spirituality you have, if you learn to let go of things, you'd be surprised
Yeah.
what can happen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
a lot of it's all of it's an illusion, really.
Yeah.
I mean, but
it seems like the time you think you're gonna really, I'm gonna make this, I'm gonna, and I don't know. I mean, at least my experience is like that's where the worst things tend to happen.
yeah.
You think you know the answer, you think like whatever that is, and it's like the times that I just let it go, or I follow that path, and I just like, okay, well, here's something that opened up, and yeah, pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Maybe something
Yeah.
comes from it.
Yeah, I mean, and at the time, I had my feelers up for that. Like, I was looking to see where God wanted to lead me or whatever. But I want to make the right choice. I want to go the right direction. I don't want to go the wrong direction. So I have to trust God. That's me.
Yeah,
That's not everybody, but
no, that's a great attitude to have. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that's been, I mean, just even having my business and stuff it's been hard, but it's been, if anything, it has taught me how to have more faith. It has taught me how to rely on God daily.
Yeah.
Because there's some days I'm not sure it's going to work out so well this time.
Oh, yeah, man.
And then, do you trust me? Do you trust me? Do you trust me? And I could tell you story after story.
Yeah.
But
that's how I feel with the podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, we're here. I just, I think I shot you a message, and then, however, everything kind of lined up and happened, and a lot of things with the podcast like that has happened where it's just like I take the opportunity when it arises, you know, and then following that path, and you can apply that to so many things in your life like that, and it's good to hear that from someone like yourself, where it's like you paid attention the best you could, and you followed where you
and you got to take that step of faith or whatever you want to call it. Like, you got to, it's a risk.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't want to take risks, but I would say, like, I'm a pretty good risk taker. Maybe a lot of stuff I've taken risk on, maybe not the best idea, but you don't win them all.
Yeah.
But if you don't try, you're not gonna.
That's part of letting go, though, too.
Yeah, that's part of letting go. Exactly.
And so then you ended up going in that direction, and
so worked at Andis for 5 years. So this was talk about another growth opportunity. Okay, so they had a couple of guys working there, talented guys, but different dynamic, totally different than Troy's. It wasn't the same level of talent that was there. Like, I don't know, it was different, like different talent.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and what I learned pretty quickly was that I'm going to have a lot more responsibilities on my plate than I was used to, just because they're just not used to.
They operated differently.
They operate different, you know, and they just assume like, okay, I got to figure this out. I got to do this, which I'm not used to doing. I'm a fabricator. I don't usually do that.
Yeah.
Why do I got to do that? And I kind of complained about it a little bit to myself, you know, but after a while, I just learned to kind of suck it up and be like, okay, I guess I'm the guy that's got to do this. I'm the guy that's got to figure out how to do this wiring right now, because the guy that actually does the wiring isn't here or isn't going to be here for a few weeks or whatever. Okay, I'm the guy that's got to finish this header because the guy that started it isn't going to get it done in time. You know,
So, you're pretty much going into a new type of a new skill set.
Yeah.
Because I
was definitely being stretched.
Yeah.
Like for this car, particularly the Riddler car, you know, it was on a time frame. And as we got closer to, you know, originally in the beginning, there wasn't really a time deadline because we don't know when this is going to get done. But as we start getting closer to a potential deadline, then the timeline really starts to tighten up. Like, how soon do the bumpers got to be done in order to get them to chrome, in order to get them back in time? Who's shipping that out? Who's going to make sure that the crate gets built and that they get insured properly, and, you know, inventory and stuff coming in and coming out? Well, I did a lot of that stuff. You know, we had a shop manager, but a lot of times he wasn't available.
Yeah.
And so I was the guy a lot of times that had to make sure that these things were getting done in an orderly fashion, and somebody was keeping track of them and putting them in a location where everybody knew where they were so that somebody else could pick up where I left off. And that whole organization part of that build is a ton of parts, ton of handmade parts. I mean, I made a lot of that car from scratch. I didn't make everything, but I made a lot of that car. Pretty much, that was my first opportunity. It was a 39 Oldsmobile Model 60 convertible, which there's only like 2 known to exist on the planet. And we cut one of them up. So, but kind of an ugly car to start with. But there again, it had started at another shop, and it had been butchered beyond recognition, like the worst fab work I have ever seen. And I remember my first week working there, they were like excited that I was there and all this, and I was excited that I was there. And they're like, okay, here's your car that you're going to work on. We're going to finish it for the Riddler. Yeah. And I was like, okay. And so I go over there, and I remember just walking around the car trying to look for a good place to start. And it was just so bad and hacked up, and the things were remade on the car that never really should have been remade. Yeah. And when they were remade, they looked like Willy Wonka made them. I mean, the shapes of them were just bizarre and not symmetrical. And one side of the car would be an inch off from the other side. I mean, it was crazy. Yeah, yeah. And it was like I couldn't find a good place to start. And I had to go to my boss and my manager, and I said, I'm sorry, I don't know where to start. Yeah. This thing is so bad, I can't find a good starting point anywhere. And they were like, well, I guess we'll have to have the customer come up and have a talk about it. And I was like, oh, great. That's exactly what I need, you know. And so I'm thinking to myself, I'm going back to Illinois. Yeah. I'm thinking I ain't got nothing to lose. So I'm going to tell them exactly what I think about the situation. And if they want to fire me or whatever, cool. You know, that's kind of where this was a hard moment in my life. Like this decision-making, I never really been forced to make a tough decision like this. And then, you know, a crucial conversation with a customer that's got millions of dollars. And I've never had to do that before and tell him that his car sucks and that he needs to throw it away or else we ain't winning nothing, you know. And so basically he's from Corpus Christi. His name's Billy. And really good guy. And he came up, salt of the earth guy. I mean, he always had these funny puns that he would say and jokes, and always real upbeat, positive guy. You couldn't hardly get him to get mad. I mean, and he's been through a lot, basically. You talk about going through hard stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This dude went through some hard stuff all the time in life and business, and I believe that's one of the things I noticed from this whole experience was, how can a guy like that go through so much pain and suffering and still be as positive and upbeat as he is?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm over here complaining about what?
Yeah.
You know? And so that was one of the light bulbs that went off for me about people that are positive all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I used to think that they were fake, or because I tend to be a little bit of a pessimist if I really go in a dark hole, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But guys like that, and a lot of these clients that we work for, they're that way, and I'm convinced that it's because they've been through hard things. They've come out the other side a better person.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you like the guy or not, like, you got to respect them for that. And they at least they're still positive even when I'm not, you know. And so I really admire that about guys like that. So anyways, he would come around, and he came by and he brought the guys from the previous shop, the guys that did the bad work. And so it's the three of them and the three of us, and we're having like this standoff kind of, you know, not really intentionally, but like basically we're having this discussion about this bad work. Levi says it's bad. Well, what's so bad about it? Well, then these other guys pipe up and they're like, well, we've been doing this for years, or you don't know what you're talking about. And I said, oh, yeah? So basically they're cornering me, and I had to stand my ground. Like, this is my chance. I'm either going to let these guys run over me in front of everybody, or I'm going to stand up and tell them what really happened, like how bad your guys' work really is. And so basically it forced me to have to call them out in front of their customer and tell them how bad their work sucked. You talk about awkward.
Yeah.
That's what I had to do, though, because it was like now or never. And I'm going back to Illinois if this don't work out.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, yeah, that's a...
But it was the hardest. That was one of the hardest discussions I've ever had to have in front of my boss, in front of my manager, in front of my client or the customer, and in front of these guys that were in the industry that I didn't really know.
Yeah.
And they're looking at me like, what the heck do you know? You know? And I just said it how it was in front of all of them, and the customer, I'll never forget, like he was just, you could tell he was raging inside. We all thought, like, what's he going to do, you know? Because he already had like $300,000 in this car.
Yeah.
And we're telling him, you need to throw it all away. I mean, let that sink in for a minute.
Yeah.
And so that's basically what we just told him. And he's either ready to kill these guys or he's ready to kill me or something. Yeah. And so he said something to the degree like, well, I'm not a quitter, and we're not quitting this time. We're gonna just keep moving forward and figure this out, you know, and or something like that. And so I was like relieved, like so grateful for a guy that has been through a lot to have a response like that in front of everybody, you know, when he could have just blown up. And so basically he's like, well, we're gonna move forward, and he was still kind of stewing, you know. He had another discussion with those guys. You know, which I'm not real sure how that panned out, but it wasn't a good one, I don't think. So he was like, well, I'll be back in a few weeks to check on the progress or something like that. And so I was like, all right, here we go, off to the races.
Wow.
And so I had a plan, you know. I had free reign basically to scratch build a car from nothing, pretty much. I mean, it had remnants of a Morrison frame left, and so I fixed some of the butchered parts of that frame, and we stretched the frame, I think 6 inches in the front. We were able to use most of the frame. The grill, he already had this custom stainless grill made for it, which was our limiting factor of the design. It was kind of a weird-looking grill, but he didn't want to, you know, he had like $10,000 in this grill. Yeah. And he thought that was a lot, you know, which nowadays that probably ain't a lot. You know, for a custom one-off grill. And so I was like, okay, we're keeping the frame, we're keeping the grill, we're keeping the headlight buckets, because they were, I believe they were the original. Yeah, they were original to the Oldsmobile. They were real cool, Art Deco looking, and that's about it.
Yeah.
The rest of it, we literally threw it away. Not all at once, but I basically what I did was I had the Fay Butler splines or sweeps.
Okay.
Had the whole set of those, and I knew how to utilize those from a design perspective. I knew that General Motors designs a car in clay, and they make it fit this sweep. And I took that same mindset and that same approach, and I relied on those sweeps to guide me and keep me on track.
Yeah.
Kind of like a square. You're using a square to make sure everything stays square.
Yeah.
We're using these sweeps to make sure that the flow of the car stays correct. And so, I mean, I literally have a picture of it where I cut half of the car off, and I had these sweeps clamped together going all the way down the car. And I'd write those numbers down, and those would be the number of the sweeps that I would keep notes on. And basically every panel in that area of the car, I would shape it to fit that sweep, whether that was the rocker panel, the door, the belt line, the body line, whatever, and every time I built that panel, I would make it fit that sweep. And so basically what I did was I started building all the pieces for the car, and I when I'd make one side, I'd make the other side also, but I wouldn't build the other side. I just built one side because I wanted the customer to come back in a few months and see the stark difference between what he had and what we were doing, because he wasn't fully convinced yet.
Yeah.
And so I would say one of the coolest things about that whole build was obviously winning the Riddler, but seeing a guy go from completely irate to a really good friend at the end. I mean, that was a huge accomplishment.
That really says a lot about all of you guys.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot to take in right there.
Yeah, and he would come by, every month or a couple months or whatever to check on it, and every time he'd see the progress, and he'd be like, all right, keep going.
Yeah.
He's a winner. He ain't quitting.
It was sticking with what's right.
Sticking with what's right. And there was an obvious difference. I mean, I had the door jambs built all out of beautiful 14 gauge with stampings and Pullmax beads, and it was all real tidy TIG welds everywhere. And he came in, and I did the side that you see when you come in first.
Okay.
You kind of come in the shop and you see this side of it, but I left the other side the way it was. And so I let him kind of just observe what we did, and I was like, okay, I want you to come over here and see what you had, just so that you realize this obvious difference that we're doing. And that was when the light bulb went off for him, and he was like,
let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah, man. Yeah. That's really cool that, the shop took your judgment in, and you guys were able to come together, to do that.
Yeah.
Like, that really says a lot about them.
Oh,
it says a lot about you and, like, where you were at mentally, because you almost could have left, but instead you were able to, do what you needed to do to bring an opportunity forward.
Yeah.
And then it all worked out really well.
Yeah, the stakes were high, but the reward was just as high.
Yeah.
Or higher. You know what I mean? But yeah, at that shop, I had, this one corner pretty much to myself for years. And I just go to work, go in that little corner with all the metal shaping equipment. They had a Pettingale power hammer, which I got to use a lot on that car. And they had, nice planching hammers and Lazzy bead roller, which I used quite a bit. I got real familiar with that and how to tip things and twist body lines. And I made a lot of the body lines with a bead roller on that car, actually. Combination bead roller and Pullmax operations.
Okay.
There was a lot of that back and forth. A lot of power hammer stuff on that car. Made the doors from scratch. Made the hood sides, the roof from scratch out of aluminum. Basically, the only things we didn't make were the headlight buckets and the tops of the rear quarters were original, and the top of the deck lid was original Oldsmobile. Yeah. All the rest of it got handmade. And so that's as close as I've come to coach building an entire car.
Wow.
So.
Was that like, considering your past and like the skill set you like had developed, was this one really pushing it? or were you like, did you feel at home because of everything?
Now
that
this
you've
one was
done?
pushing it. This one was pushing the limits of what's capable. I mean,
Yeah.
we did some crazy stuff on that car as a team. Even you know, Christian Dotson was involved. That he's a designer. He worked at GM for a while as a designer. He had a lot of input on. I'd be like, "Hey, Christian, what do you think we should do here?" And he'd doodle up a little bezel or a lens or something, and then we'd have the machine shop make it.
Hmm.
You know, and it's just like anything is possible
Yeah.
when you got the right people involved. You got the creative juices flowing, or whatever you want to call it, and you got the machines to do it and the customer to back it up.
Yeah.
Let's go. That's what we do. You know.
Man.
So
That's a really, and I'm sure we can go further into this story, but
yeah.
like I feel like it's a great segue into like when you started doing Hammer Fab.
Okay. Yeah.
Because like what you just said there, you know, seeing the team come together, and you know, and you've hinted at this throughout the whole thing of when you start realizing that it's like, yeah, you're doing work, you're doing these things, but like it's also the combination of this person being involved
Yeah.
and that, and like everything that's happening, whether it's the good, the bad, the ugly, all that stuff is like was part of the formula
Yeah.
to get to that point. And so now, you know, I mean, dude, that's a big backing in your career.
Yeah.
Like that is so much to be able to carry into your own business before you get into your own business. And like to me, when I do these podcasts, like I really want people to understand when they see someone like yourself or all these other names that are out there, there's a common denominator, and it's like you might see on Instagram, YouTube, whatever, like this person, you're like, holy shit, like this person's crazy. Like, you know, you could say Chip Foose, right? A
Right.
lot of people look up to him,
Yeah.
you know, but you don't know all the stuff it took
Yeah.
before he became the big name of
Yeah.
Chip Foose or whatever, fill in the blank, whatever person it is that inspires you. It's like they went through 20 formidable years, 15, 10, whatever. Everyone's got their own different path. And then for you to be able to back that into Hammer Fab,
Yeah.
that's huge, man. Like that's really like that's what it that at least for you. I don't want to say that that's everything of what it takes, but that really helped you.
Yeah. So you talking about it like that, I mean, it kind of makes me think of it differently, like from a different perspective, because you know, you think Hammer Fab's a cool brand, which I'm flattered by. You know, that's what I want. You know, that's what we've been trying to achieve, right? Yeah. But when I first started Hammer Fab and I came up with the name, I'm thinking, this is a dumb name. Why would anybody want to, you know, and other people that never heard of us, they probably thinking, what is that, you know? But, and Foose, the name Foose was actually, when I was thinking of a brand, like, what do I want to name my company? Well, I could name it Rad Rides by Levi, you know, but that wouldn't be original, you know? And I thought about, like, you know, do I attach my name to it or not? And so I decided not, because yeah, I'm the brains behind it or whatever, but I wanted to create a brand that people recognize and want to get behind, support, whatever, no matter what it's called. You know, and that's how Foose is, I think. You know, yes, that's his last name, but if you didn't know him, you wouldn't know that's his last name.
Yeah.
But his logo of his name looks really stinking cool. For some reason, it's still the same logo. Yeah. You know, so he's really good at the branding part of it. He's got the artistic eye and, like, you know, so that's what I wanted to do. That's not really the best example because that is his last name, but you know.
But branding like that is important.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, that was like my version of an example of that would be like, it's going to sound dumb, but it's like Instagram names. You know, if your Instagram name's Big Booty 27, I promise you, you're going to go to a show and everyone's going to call you, oh, you're big, you know, that. And I learned that earlier on. So like my personal, I made sure it was my name.
Yeah.
So then when I go to a show, Miguel, hey, it's nice to meet you.
Yeah.
You know, not Big Booty 27.
Yeah.
And but like whether it's Rad Rides by Troy, right? That name sticks with you. You know it's Troy. You know the brand, like, you know, all that stuff. It actually plays a bigger role than most people really maybe pay attention to.
Yeah.
You know, because whatever's on the name there,
Yeah,
Hammer Fab, I'm connecting the dots here
Yeah.
of what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and I don't know if I would ever sell the company or anything, or that's a whole nother topic. Building something that is desirable to be bought,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that's a potential option later on. Like if you want to sell your brand, do you want to have your name attached to it?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a side point, but
Yeah. So you started. What was the decision point of you starting this company?
well, so Hammer Fab officially started January 1st, 2014.
Okay.
But that's when I still had a perfectly good paying job.
Yeah.
That's when I sent in the documents or whatever, but I wasn't really sure what I was going to do, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But that was probably the point where we're probably in the middle of finishing up the Riddler car at that point, and I just kind of realized, this isn't where I'm supposed to be again. The easy button in me wants to go find another shop.
Yeah.
But I had reached this point where I'm not doing this again. I'm not moving. I don't know where else I would go.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, I was kind of being directed.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's a stepping stone. And I was in my 30s at that time. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, gosh, I don't know. I don't want to start my own business, really. Like, if I got to do that, then it's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard. That's not the easy path.
Yeah.
And I'm not loaded. I don't have like a bunch of money sitting around to just go figure this out and do this.
Yeah.
I had like nothing. And, recently married, recently had a baby, and now I'm going to start a business. What? And my wife thought I was crazy, but it I guess you could say it was out of necessity,
Mm-hmm.
It was time for me to leave again and figure something out. And so, I had a plan. I didn't know if it was a good one or not, but I'm doing this, and so I had this new fire lit in my belly, if you want to call it that. And by golly, I was going to figure it out one way or another.
Yeah.
And, there again, trusting God. If this is what I'm supposed to do, help me out, because I'm going to need some help, And if it ain't, well, then I guess I'm just stupid, And so it was just, talk about success, and everybody wants quick success. Well, how'd you get so successful? Well, it don't happen overnight.
We just basically went over what was that, 12 years?
Yeah. Okay, so you talk about that. Okay, so that's one success.
Yeah.
As a fabricator, as a craftsman.
Yeah.
But now, when you're going out on your own, it's a whole different story, because, you think you can ride on the coattails of people that you've worked for and all this, but that only goes so far, and people catch on to that, and some people kind of probably look down on you because of that, but basically, you got to prove yourself all over again.
Yeah.
If you're going to step out into the deep end, that's one thing I learned. Ain't nobody coming to save you.
Yeah.
Nobody's coming to give you a handout. Nobody's calling to check in on you, see if you're okay. You're on your own, dude.
Yeah.
That's the 100% truth right there. And it's sink or swim.
Yeah.
And but I guess it kind of spooled up. I want to say, like, okay, we're doing this, and then once you start, it's like, oh dang, we're really doing this. And it's even to this day, I talk about the roller coaster, the emotional roller coaster, the financial roller coaster, all the things that you learn through all this stuff. it's still up and down. I mean, it's some of the things have gotten better and a little smoother, but the thing, you just can't expect all the things coming your way when you say you want to go start your own business. And the best case scenario is having the experience like I had to back me up. in the event that somebody hears about that. You know what I mean? Because if you don't got any of that, I mean, you're just, you know, good luck.
Yeah.
You know, because that would be even harder, I would think, if you
Mm-hmm.
don't really have much to stand on
Yeah.
reputation wise. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but so yeah, so you know, I had this working at the both shops. You know, I have these ideas for products and things, and sometimes we make custom tools, and I'd be like, man, somebody ought to make that, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and nobody ever really wanted to turn anything into a product because they weren't into doing products.
Yeah.
And I just kind of always had this inkling to do products. I don't know why. I just enjoy coming up with an idea,
Mm-hmm.
turning it into something useful that other people can use, you
Yeah.
know, and it's very rewarding, you know. So I had this idea for a dimple die, and I wanted to use it on my 58 Apache. And so that truck wasn't done yet, by the way. I was still kind of working on that, but really not much.
That was the truck that I think you and I met quickly
Yeah,
at SEMA.
yeah. So that was 2019.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the blue one. So that one, I was still kind of working on it, but not very intentionally. And this was at the point where, okay, everything's getting harder, life's getting harder. It's just going to get harder.
Mm-hmm.
Suck it up. It's just going to keep getting harder. That's basically where I was at, and
Yeah.
like just figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna have to stay up later. You're gonna have to, you know. So basically, I would work all day, and then I would go home, and then I would figure out how to build a website.
Yeah.
I mean, I built my own website.
Mm-hmm.
First couple of websites I did all by myself. Like they weren't the best, but it was better than nothing.
Yeah.
And I did all my own photography, and I did, you name it. I was just a do-it-yourselfer, and I just figured out because I couldn't afford to pay anybody to do it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so basically, for a year, like you collecting all this equipment and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you're always looking for a deal.
Yeah.
That was my mission in life for that year was, what do I have to work with, and which wasn't very. It was very little money. I think I had like $600
Mm-hmm.
to my name. Like, you know, we had, you know, as a couple, we
Yeah.
had money, but I couldn't use that money.
Yep.
Well, no way the wife was going for that. But she was just like, you figure it out, you know. And but I had like $600 cash, I remember, and I'm on Craigslist at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm just staying up all night looking for deals to pop up,
Mm-hmm.
and this machine would pop up for $600, and it was like a corner notcher or a hole punch or something. And it was pretty close by where I could go pick it up, and I would go buy that machine for $600 and drag it back to my garage. So first thing I bought, very first tool that I bought was a trailer from my neighbor, next door neighbor, old guy. He had some race cars and stuff, and he had this pretty sweet rollback trailer that went real low to the ground and had a winch on it. And so I bought that. I think it was like $3,500. And that trailer, I still have that trailer to this day. It's the handiest thing I've ever had.
Okay.
But that trailer allowed me to drag everything home with a winch.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what it was. I could get it on that
Mhm.
trailer
By yourself.
by myself.
Yeah.
By myself, and I could unload it by myself if I planned it out right.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a 3-car garage, and within a year, I packed that garage full of equipment, one piece at a time. And every time I drag one home, I didn't have any money for the next one. So what I do, I stayed up till midnight or 1 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
getting it up to speed and making sure it was working or
Yeah.
restoring it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what I did for like the last year.
Wow.
And it was just like, I can't explain it, but I had like this fire, this
Mhm.
drive to just survive.
Yeah.
And so, you know, wasn't sure if I was going to make it, but I just one foot in front of the other,
Mhm.
day after day after day after day, and it started all coming together, and then got to the point where I needed to start looking for some space, shop space,
Mhm.
and so I started looking around. I had no idea how to do that, and I didn't have. Why would anybody have any reason to rent a shop to somebody like me who's never done that before and doesn't have a leg to stand on?
Yeah.
You know, and nobody wants to take that risk.
Yeah.
Landlords don't want to take that risk.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember I looked at a couple of shops, and I came back around to this one couple that had this pretty nice building not too far from my house, and it's like 2,500 square feet, and no air conditioning, just a metal building basically. And my time was running out. Like basically, we had just went to SEMA with the car and all this, and then brought it back. This is 2016, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, and well, actually, it would have been. So I think I quit Hot Rods of Andis right before SEMA, and SEMA was like my reset. That was my chance to just go and rethink things and just take it all in and just not be on the hook by anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just out here by myself.
Yeah.
And when I came back from SEMA, I better have something to work on. And so I must have had the building lined up by then. But I remember asking the couple, like they were kind of, well, I don't know, yeah, it's not looking real good or something. And I was like, listen, I got like 3 days to figure this out, or I don't remember what it was, but I was like, I got to figure this out. I got no other option.
Yeah.
I don't have a job, or I'm leaving my job in X amount of days, and I've got to figure this out. So I'm all in. Like, no better person to bet on than somebody that's all in.
Yeah.
What do you got to lose? You're going to get my deposit back. Big deal, So they gave me a chance, and
okay.
And to this day, we're still good friends.
That's awesome.
He's a car guy too, so that helped.
Yeah.
So yeah, they gave me a chance, and so I was in that building started out. It was a building that had, I think it was total 5,000 square feet, but it was partitioned off. Mm-hmm. So I had 2,500 square feet, and then it's hot in Texas. It's a metal building, and so I had. Let's see, I started that lease in, it would have been around October. Mm-hmm. So that was winter, okay? So I knew in my head, I got like 6 months before it starts getting blazing hot again. Mm-hmm. I got to come up with some money for an air conditioner. Yeah. Because basically the landlord was like, well, you can get air conditioning, but you got to pay for it, and I get to keep it. How's that? How's that sound?
Yeah.
That's kind of how it goes when you're renting buildings.
You chose comfort.
Oh, yeah. It was basically like, at the time, it was like $8,000, which now is like a screaming deal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Big time.
At the time, it was like, here's your $8,000. Thanks for coming.
Man.
But I'm sure glad I had air conditioning. Mm-hmm. And same thing with the floor. Right when I moved in, it kind of looked ratty and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, I really want it to look a little nicer in here. And he's like, well, I'll let you do it, but I get to keep it,
Sounds like it was working in his favor pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had the whole floor epoxied and everything, and probably wouldn't do that again. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd probably do like a polished floor if I did it again or something like that. But that shop served me well. I was in that shop by myself for a year before I took on my first helper. Mm-hmm. And so now we're getting in deep. So Hammer Fab started as a product company, doing the dimple dies. Yeah. The Crater Maker dimple die was my first product that I developed, and anybody that's developed products, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's not easy, and when you're talking about CNC machined tools. Well, I don't have a CNC machine. How am I going to do that? That's a uphill battle. Like, I'm not affording that. Mm-hmm. And so basically I forced myself to learn CAD design. Well, I didn't have the money for SolidWorks at the time. And so I downloaded this software called FreeCAD, which is probably still around, and literally just one thing at a time, like that, step by step by step. I mean, I would watch YouTube videos on how to do this FreeCAD thing until I got to the point where I could design my dimple dies. And then I didn't know what kind of file I needed to print it or machine it. I didn't know any of that. And I was self-taught all of that, mainly from YouTube videos. Yeah. So, you think you got to go to college. You don't got to go to college. Just go to YouTube.
It's a big resource nowadays. I
Yeah.
mean, I know some people have their opinions of some, and
Yeah.
there's some stuff on YouTube that's
Yeah.
whatever, but there's a lot of good stuff on there that,
Yeah.
yeah, you can learn how to do CAD work
Yeah. We
just
can
by,
talk about that later.
yeah.
The learning part later.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, uh-huh.
So, so yeah, the products. I knew a couple of machinists in the area, and I'd say, "Hey, man, can you make 20 of these for me?"
Hmm.
And they're looking at you like you're crazy. Like 20? They want to make 2,000 of them.
Yeah,
You know.
uh-huh.
And so I was like, "Please." And so they would make a few of them for me at a time. I would get them heat treated or whatever, and then I would have a few to sell. But slowly but surely, like they started taking off.
Hmm.
And then, so I started with the Crater Maker series, which is a really cool looking dimple die. And the first place I used it was on my 58 Apache on the core sport cover. And now we have several other styles of dimple dies. And all of our dimple dies mainly pertain to adding strength and style around a fastener.
Hmm.
So we don't get into doing like chassis lightning holes and punch flare holes. We don't get into all that.
Yeah.
I don't want to compete with that market.
Hmm.
So there's plenty of other people already doing that. So I'm just mainly focused on the fastener side of it, and that's done really well for us.
Yeah.
It's a lot of moving parts. It's a lot of little details. It's a lot of processes. It's a lot of things you got to figure out. But I enjoy it. I love figuring it out, and it's all stuff that's also it's somewhat scalable.
Yeah.
So once I figure it out, okay, I can train a less skilled person how to do this.
Hmm.
You don't got to be a fabricator to learn
Yeah,
how to do
anybody
this.
can buy your kit,
Yeah.
and they can do something really unique with it.
Yeah, exactly. So that was my goal with the Hammer Fab dimple dies was I wanted to create a tool that was fairly simple to use by your average garage user, shop, home builder.
Yeah.
But it looked like you did it on this really big machine.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So
You can have a vise and,
Yeah.
Make something really cool with that. You can have a press. You can
Yeah.
have, I mean, most people could do something with it in their garage.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, impact gun.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was kind of my goal. And I figured if I can do that, well then sky's the limit for who can buy it, pretty much. And that's been the case. So to this day, a Crater Maker is still our most popular product,
That's cool.
which kind of is mind-boggling. But
Mhm.
we've got a lot of other popular products, but that one is still like number one.
Yeah. And I'm an original customer because I guess I bought it way early on then.
Yeah,
Because it was, I think, when I got my kit, it was probably around 2016.
that thing's an antique by now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with them either. They keep working.
Yeah.
So that's a cool tool.
Yeah, and then I always had in mind, okay, well I want to do full builds,
Mhm.
resto mod builds. But there again, I'm starting fresh basically. I don't have a reputation on my own for doing that.
Yeah.
And so I went to SEMA in 2016, and the goal was when I get back, I better have something to work on. And at the time, I didn't. When I went to SEMA, I didn't have any jobs lined up.
Yeah.
And I tried talking to people that I already knew in the industry, customers that I knew that I could reach out to, and hey, you got anything you want to build? I'm starting my own shop. Well, I learned pretty quickly that I was probably saying all the wrong things, or whatever, but even if I was saying the right things, like just the situation, it looks risky.
Mhm.
Same reason the landlord didn't want to rent me a building.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to risk me building their car when
Mhm.
you're first starting, because you don't really you're like, why would I do that? If you're
Yeah.
some multimillionaire, why would I go with you when I can go with Roy Brizio or Alloway or
Yeah. Name. Yeah.
they could hire any of those guys to do it. Why would I go with you? And so that was kind of a rude awakening for me, because they knew me. They knew I could do it. Like some of them, I was building their cars at other places, and why don't they go with me?
Mhm.
And that was kind of a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
But I just had to realize, I understand, they're smart businessmen.
Mhm.
They're not going to take a risk.
Yeah.
They're not stupid,
Yeah.
But
There's so many established names and everything like that. Like they already have an idea of who they might want to go, who's got a established business, and you know.
I mean, unless they're just really gracious and you know, really feel like pouring into the younger generations, which some of those guys do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Unless they're that, you know, then you know, most of the time they're in it for other reasons. You know, they want to go to win. They want somebody that's going to pretty much guarantee a win at one of these big shows or something, and they're not so sure I can do that just yet. You know, I might not be able to pay rent next month.
Well, the names also carry that weight with them too.
Yeah.
You know, and that's part of, you know, you enter some of these shows and just, you know, the name that's behind it. There's momentum with it too.
Yes, exactly. And that momentum has been growing and growing and growing.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, like I said, nobody's going to just give that to you. And, you know, it's been a tough road, but I wouldn't have it any other way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I'm very grateful for the progression of Hammer Fab. I'm grateful that we're still in business over all these years through COVID and everything.
Yeah.
And, you know, even this year is kind of slow. In some regards, it's slowed down, but it's picking back up again. And, you know, it's taught me how to weather the storm.
Yeah.
You know, and how to tighten up your bootstraps and just, you know, trim the fat, however you want to say it. And, you know, some tough lessons in life when running a business.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, I mean, so you're kind of juggling the doing builds, doing the products.
Yep.
You have classes that you've been doing. When did you start the classes now?
Probably around. That probably would have been around 2017.
Okay.
Somewhere around there, because basically the classes were. I had the idea for classes, and so basically, you know, I'm renting a building. Okay, so I get back from SEMA, and I had this one old boy reach out to me from a phone call. He's a friend of a friend. He's somebody that's not even on the internet, you know. He's one of those guys. And he had a 33 Ford Roadster that he wanted some work done, and the way he was describing it to me didn't really sound that good. And I went and looked at it. It was down a storage unit, and I'm like, oh, my gosh, I'm going to need a tetanus shot for this thing. And just completely covered in rust and just basket case and not cool at all. And so I went to SEMA hoping that I could get something better than that, you know, when I got back. And then I got back, and about a week went by, and I didn't have any big jobs lined up. I think I had like a hood to work on or something, dents to fix. I think it was one of these trucks, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, had a big dent in the front, but and that guy called me, and he's like, well, have you given it any more thought about, you know, working on my car? And I was like, yeah, I guess I'll come down and get it, you know.
Yeah.
I wasn't real thrilled about it, but he was the first guy willing to start writing me checks.
Okay.
And so I went down and got his car, dug it out of storage, and brought it back. And he had some weird ideas he wanted to do to it, and I was just like, well, we're gonna drag this out and see if you change your mind.
Yeah.
Basically. And so I would do same kind of like with the Oldsmobile. I'd do a little bit of work to it, and it was way better than he expected.
Yeah.
And then he'd be like, oh, well, that idea I had, forget about that. And I was like, yes. You know, and so it kind of progressed like that slowly.
Yeah.
But, you know, he wasn't a super wealthy client, but he had, you know, he's putting a pretty decent amount of money into this car. Yeah. And this is what he wanted in life. This is, you know, he didn't have a whole lot of other stuff going on. And so, and then from there, I'd get a job here, a build here, you know. They started getting better and better, at least in my mind. And, you know, got to the point where I needed to start hiring some help. Yeah. Which is a whole nother new challenge. And,
next chapter.
Yeah. And, yeah, I'm just trying to think how that went. I mean, I had a couple of guys help me part-time for a minute. So, Chad Glasshagel, you know him? So he used to work at Roadster Shop. He worked at Roadster Shop before Roadster Shop owned Roadster Shop.
Okay.
Well, before the brothers owned.
Yeah.
And so he knew how to do the frames, and he's a very good fabricator. He moved down to Texas, and another one of them prayer deals. Like I'm sitting there, I'm like, God, please send me somebody that is exactly what I need, not somebody that I got to babysit. I don't know where to find this person. They're like unicorns. I need somebody. I said, send them knocking at my door. This is what I was praying. I'm serious. I kid you not. Like the next day, literally knocking on my door is Chad Glasshagel, formerly from Roadster Shop. Been working there for like 15 years or something. Excellent fabricator, and he just moved to Texas on a whim with his wife or whatever. They didn't, I don't know what they were doing, but he's still in Texas. But really good dude. He helped me part-time for a little bit. And then I said, well, I'd like to hire you full-time, but he was trying to do his own thing on the side. And I was like, okay, maybe this will help you out or whatever, Yeah. And so he was doing some really nice fab work on several projects in the shop. We did a 62 Nova. We did a Roadster Shop chassis, and he made all the floors in that car. And they turned out beautiful. And actually, Andis ended up finishing that car.
Okay.
Funny enough, the customer sold it to one of their customers, and they ended up finishing it. He helped do some frame modifications and stuff. So, anyways, it was really good to have him around because it was just like easy button. Yeah. I don't got to tell him anything. Yep, looks great. Keep going. And he was loving it, and it was we gelled really well together. Yeah. And I was hoping for an opportunity to maybe hire him full time. But it was just me and him. And there again, you don't look like you got a whole lot going on, dude. But in my mind, I'm like overwhelmed,
Yeah.
And so it's hard, what do they call it? Appearance, or the illusion of what's really going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not the word I'm looking for, but basically.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. Yeah. Looking the part, fake it till you make it, whatever you want to call it, That's a thing. Like, I hate being fake, but sometimes you gotta, put the truck in the background or whatever, to make it look right, make it look cool.
Yeah.
Shine the floors, you do the best you can with what you got. And a lot of all of that goes a little bit further next time. And so that applies to finding talent too.
Yeah.
You want to find the top talent? Well, you got a really cool shop. Is it air conditioned? Is it got all the tools that they ever wanted to use? And that plays a part in it. So, but anyways, Chad, he went to go work for Jesse James for a minute, which I was sad about. But then he was at Martin Brothers. I don't think he's there anymore though now. So he's also accumulated quite the resume.
Okay. Yeah.
So he'd be a good one to have on sometime.
Yeah. So then, you're kind of working on scaling the business at this point.
Yeah.
Right. You're trying to get some more help in there.
ramping up. I would say I was ramping up until last year.
Yeah.
And then things, especially the body shop. We have a paint shop in house now.
Yeah.
And that side of the business really slowed down. And so I would say, I was like pedal to the metal for the last 9 years.
Yeah.
And until just recently. So, but just like ramping it up, trying to get good clients, trying to do the best work we can, just getting out there, and then started going to some shows and stuff. And, just trying to, so many plates you got to spin and you got to kind of decide, do I want to do all of this or not? Going to the shows and everything is expensive, and is it really worth it? A lot of times it's not. A lot of times you just lose your butt going to a show.
It's up and down because it's not necessarily that you might get a project out of it, but it might be that you start working with a company, that's your paint. Yeah. Or whatever, the networking part of it. And like even that's up and down.
Yeah.
Sometimes you end up with a relationship that you didn't know you had. Sometimes it's kind of the same, but you start figuring out where is that avenue, which is the right show, which is the place that's really going to be worth it for me. And I think you probably did the same thing I've done before, where it's like I'm gonna go to all of them,
Yeah.
and then you realize, okay, maybe those weren't for me, and I need to kind of
Pick and choose.
prioritize.
Yeah.
you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so then you've got the you're building cars. You're expanding. Now you have the body shop. You're doing your in-house painting and all that stuff. And so, like, what made you decide to start going into like the training courses and everything? 'Cause you
Okay.
have
So yeah, the classes started around 2017, and that was like a plan B.
yeah.
And there was this minute there in my first year in business where work got a little slow, or not as much as I'd like. And so I was like, what am I going to do? And so I literally, I went and posted on my website that I was in control of, which was handy at this time. I didn't have to rely on somebody else to get it right.
Yeah.
And all I had to do was create a product that was a class, come take my class. And it was, 6 weeks from now or whatever. And I think I lined up 2 or 3 classes at a time.
Yeah.
I put them on the website simultaneously. And I want to say they sold out or almost sold out like within a couple days.
Wow, man.
And I was like, that was a light bulb moment for me where it was like instant cash flow. And I was like, well, I don't have a problem paying my bills right now, And so I was like, I'm going to keep doing that. And so that lasted pretty steadily up until COVID. And then COVID really kind of sacked the classes.
Okay.
The in-person classes.
Yeah, yeah.
But I still do them. I don't do them as often as I used to. I used to do at least one a quarter. And now I'm kind of like, it's just kind of like, are we doing this or how am I feeling about it? It's kind of just dependent. I'm kind of just testing the market or the economy or whatever and just seeing what people are into. So we still do some TIG welding classes now. I'm probably going to get doing some more metal shaping classes, but now I'm in a new building now. So we moved from the one building, which I ended up taking over that 5,000 square feet. I outgrew the 5,000 square feet. And then a couple years ago, I moved about 7 miles away in Bertram, Texas, and to a much larger facility. I think total now we have about 18,000 square feet amongst 3 buildings.
Yeah.
And so the paint and body shop is in a separate building. Fab shop and assembly shop is in the one main building. And so that was a huge move too. Like basically Hammer Fab was busting at the seams at the old building and I didn't even know it. And as soon as I got into the new building, business exploded.
Yeah.
Like literally had guys coming by wanting stuff built. Like they found me out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Had a couple of customers that came by that way. I got some really good customers that way. So one of the projects that I had in my classes was a 1950 shoebox Ford.
I remember that
lead
one.
sled,
Yeah.
really cool looking. So I bought that car in a field for $300 and the floor was completely rotted out of it. And my main goal with this car was I'm just going to do a chop top class. That's it. I'm going to throw the car away after that.
Yeah.
And so we did the class. The chop turned out really cool. And so then I was like, well, maybe I can turn this into a compound curve class and show them how to make the sail panel.
Okay.
So between now and so I set up that class and sold that class out, and then had a compound curve class using the power hammer and all the equipment. That's a really loud class, by the way. Very popular class, but very loud. And because we got everything, air compressor, planching hammers, power hammers, everything's running all at once.
I've done I've been a part of a few classes like that, and it's if you don't have a headset on, good luck.
Yeah. And so I did like a whole bunch of classes on that shoebox Ford. And the idea was, okay, if this thing just doesn't turn out very well, we'll just push it aside or, crush it or something, And then it started getting cooler and cooler looking.
100%. I was following along with that car. That thing was awesome.
And so then I got some Detroit steel wheels for it. And then I did a front clip on it and put airbags on it.
Yeah.
And then I did a step notch in the back. And got the thing laying on the ground,
Yeah.
and I set it up for an LS. I was like, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm just going to do it so that it's desirable,
Mm-hmm.
and it's basically like ready to go, if I can turn this into something. And so then we did like 3 floor pan classes on it, building sections of the floor with pole max and out of 14 gauge, and showing how we do it at our shop.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I teach the classes, I'm showing you guys, the students, how we do it.
Yeah.
I'm not showing you how everybody else does it.
Mm-hmm.
We do things differently. It's, in my opinion, a little bit better
Mm-hmm.
than, because of my experience. I do things the way, some of it stems from what I learned at Troy's.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it stems from Coach building a Riddler car,
Yeah.
And so we have the equipment to do all that stuff. And so that's the only way I know how to do it now. I'm not reverting to any other ways. We're going to do it. This is the way that I figured out is the best for what we're doing. And I'm going to show you how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to do that, well, maybe this ain't the right class for you.
Yeah.
So we show how to do the pole max and stamp beads and all that. And then we did wheel tub classes, how to fabricate wheel tubs from scratch. We did a transmission tunnel class, and then we did a firewall class, and then we did a inner fender class out of aluminum. Then we did a core support cover class. I mean, there's probably 10 to 12 classes on that one car.
Yeah.
And so now you might think, oh, yeah, it's easy money, whatever. Yeah, well, it's selling a lot of classes, but there's a lot of work in between each class that I have to spend a lot of time, nights and weekends, to get it caught up to the next, ready for the next class. Like if we didn't get the rocker panels done in one class, well, guess what? I got to finish those up before we can attach the floor.
Yeah.
And so it was about 50-50. I'd say about half of it got done in the class, half of it got done on my own time. And so there's a lot of sweat equity involved, but basically got it to the point where it looked like a really cool roller in bare metal. I had the car blasted and then I DA sanded the whole thing, and it was completely bare metal. I went ahead and epoxy primered the inside and the underneath, and I raptor linered the underneath of it. So basically the underneath of it was pretty much figured out. Just needed a power plant. And, it's just very well built metal, and the metalwork was very nice on it. All things considered, a lot of students put their hands on that car.
And that's the aspect I was just thinking of was like, there's a lot of metal shaping classes, and you'll make like a half tank, right? There's all these like little parts, or maybe work on part of a fender, but like you pretty much had a class where like students actually watched a car progress.
Yeah, if you think about it, if it was 10 to 12 classes at a minimum of 10 people per class, there's 100, 120 people participated in building that car.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that's pretty
and they
cool.
can actually see like there's a tangible thing. You can be like, oh, I was a part of that build.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's a build, but it's like, it was a student project.
Yeah.
Combined as a build, like that just kind of materialized on its own. It sounds like it was natural. Like it just.
I mean, it was definitely. I don't know if you call it a recipe, but it worked.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing worked. Like, got to know a lot of good people. I got customers from classes. I got employees from classes. Sold a lot of products at classes, and I'll probably do it again. I got a couple projects now that we could turn into classes.
That's cool.
But,
yeah.
I still like teaching. I'm thinking about doing some different aspects of teaching. Hammer Fab Academy is what we're calling it. So if you go to our website, we have a section called Hammer Fab Academy. Well, that's basically all things encompassing, pertaining to learning. Yeah. Learning this trade, learning the things that we do, whether that's an in-person class. We have digital courses online, which is I feel like that's kind of new to our industry.
I mean, the closest thing would be the old CDs back then when everyone would,
the VHS tapes.
Yeah, or like whatever, like a Ron Covell, thing or something.
Yeah, it's basically like that, but it's all on our website. They're affordable. You don't gotta. If you think about it, if you want to come to an in-person class, it's a commitment. I mean, it's thousands of dollars.
For sure.
The class is expensive. The airfare is expensive. Rental car, hotel. You're gonna be $3,000-4,000
easy
per person, into a class.
Yeah.
And so we're still doing some of those. We just did one, our first body shop class actually, on how to do high-end body work.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of people come out from the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And, those guys were really into it, and they learned a bunch.
Yeah.
So we're probably going to do some more of those. But body work, as you know, like it's kind of a hard thing to make sexy, and it's hard to market. And, like, what am I doing? Like, what am I paying for?
Yeah.
You're going to show me how to sand? What? So that's been a bit of a challenge on how to.
But see, the thing is like when it comes to body work, that's like when you look at a full build, I think of all the shops I've talked to, like that's the most frustrating aspect.
Totally.
Like, there's a ton of time in all of it.
Yeah.
Right? The metal work, the body work, the paint work, the finish work, the wire, there's tons of time in all of it. But body work in general has been like there's a thing there that's still hovering over all of us. That's like the efficiency part of it is so brutal.
Well, and especially if you're talking about doing like high end.
Yeah.
And our customers too. I mean, I've only had the paint and body shop for like 3 years now. And I've been around it my whole career. I know what it takes to do high end stuff. I've been around high end painters like Charlie Hutton and these guys, I went to his place to help out with fabrication things on that Riddler car. So I was literally in the mix of what this takes. I understand the products to some degree, but it wasn't until I started my own paint body shop that I realized there's a challenge here with the customers. And they have no idea why is it taking so long and why is it so involved, and you're still sending me pictures of what? Like, it still looks the same, dude.
It's a primed car.
It's still primer.
You sanded it, you primed it.
Why am I still sending you a
They don't know
check?
the difference.
And you can't see the difference. Yeah. And so that has been a real challenge. And basically, we had several cars lined up in our paint shop. I want to say 3 of them went over there to just basically stall out because the customers are just like, when's the bleeding going to stop, you know? And it's like, well, we're doing it as efficient as we know how. Yeah. And we even changed some things, and like I'm over there, leaning on my guys, like, what are we doing? And the customer's like, what are we doing? Yeah. And it's just like this drudgery phase of the build.
Yeah, it is. It is. I see it as a combination of the things. Like it's the knowledge of doing body work in an efficient manner, however that means, right? Yeah. Because like things can get drawn out. It's easy to. Tyler, right? And he has his steps, his processes that he's gone through, right? And that's still a lot of time there. Yeah. But like, if you're in a shop that you don't have any standards, you could triple the amount of time in that.
Yeah. If you don't have some kind of parameters or guidelines or process nailed down, yes, absolutely. You could very easily just
it's like we wish that we could go, here's one grit, and I'm going to use this one grit from start to finish and go ahead, done, and it's like, okay, you have to understand shaping. You have to understand shapes. Yeah. I think one of the aspects that could really help with understanding body work, metal and body need to shake hands.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They work together.
Yeah, and we do at our shop too. Like we have, we have team meetings. We are not. It's not us versus them, which that's a thing too. Yeah. And so we've been very intentional in our shop about we're not going to ever be us versus them. They're part of the team. Y'all are part of the team. Matter of fact, y'all need to get together and learn why that fender needs to fit the way it does, and what does this metal guy need to do? How does he need to slice this or whatever, adjust this so that it's minimal work for the body guy, And so we've been. I feel like our team has been very good about just staying a well knit team in that regard, and actually one of my metal guys has got pretty good experience. He used to be a body guy, really good.
And I've always heard that is like a body guy makes a great metal guy because he or she does not want to just sand filler all day either. If I can get away with a skim, if I can get away with, the minimal material, which is the goal, you're going to save a lot of time. Yeah. But you still have to shape that car. Yeah. And your experience with metal shaping, you have your skill set brings you closer to that, like, point of less material on the car.
Yeah.
But how many shops are operating on that?
Yeah, no.
Most of them
A
aren't.
lot of them aren't even thinking about that.
And that's not a dig at any of them. They just don't have the knowledge or the understanding.
Like the guy that used to do body work, he's now becoming an excellent fabricator.
Yeah.
Well, right before a build, we get all the metal work done. Well, we have this stage of the build where basically right before it goes to the body shop, we do the metal panel gapping and the final panel fitment adjustments and panel gapping, and he's the guy that does that.
Yeah.
And he loves doing that. He's very good at it. And that I feel like that's a step that most people just overlook.
Yeah.
They just send it to the body shop, they'll deal with it.
Yeah.
Well, they're not metal guys. They don't, they'll get the cutoff wheel out and start hacking and MIG welding, but I mean, I've been in situations where that's the case, and it's like, as a fabricator, I'm like shocked. I'm like, oh my gosh, what are they doing? And it's like, well, your metalwork should have been better, and that
yeah, see, and that's the thing. Like I said, they should be shaking hands, because this
shouldn't get to that point.
Yeah, and this skill set can help the other skill set and be like, okay, this spot isn't going to work out, or I'm going to have to just put a lot of filler, or maybe we can shrink this area down.
Yeah.
And finding those highs and lows, and like, I say this ad nauseum on the podcast, is like, the metal work is going to dictate the body work.
Yeah.
The shapes of that car. If I have a big crown over here that's not supposed to be there, for me to body work that,
you got to build everything up around it.
Yeah. And that's just, if you can, understanding that concept doesn't solve all of it, but it gets you in a good place. Then it's being tactical about it.
Yeah.
And knowing, okay, do I add material here? Do I take, it's like looking at highlights. Like, highlights will help you, see where the car shape is and stuff like that. And there's other aspects to it, to seeing the shape of a car. But, once you see those things, you don't unsee them afterwards.
Yeah.
If you're standing at a show and you see a car and we got 8-foot light beams inside of here. And when that light beam goes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you know exactly where it's at. Yeah.
You see what's going on.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You start making things, the nicer you start making something, the more it reveals every single little flaw.
Yeah. The higher the stakes are.
Yeah.
Like, that's in show car stuff.
Yeah.
It's awesome. But the higher you go, the higher the stakes are.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
And that's from time to the quality.
And you get to the Riddler show, and from my experience, basically what it comes down to is who has the least amount of flaws. That's what it comes down to. I mean, I literally saw the judges' sheets when they were walking around, and there was 3 really nice cars in 2016, and some top builders too. And a couple of the cars had a whole bunch of things wrong. Our car had like 4 or 5 things on there. Everybody else had like a whole list of things that they were pointing out. So everybody's going to have some flaws.
Yeah.
But it comes down to who has the least amount of flaws. Because they're going to find them at those kind of shows.
Yeah.
At the Riddler, the Slonaker. There's another one coming up in Houston this year, which we're going to be a part of.
Okay.
So
cool.
I don't know the name of it yet, but I'm involved with it. So.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah,
that's exciting.
Big time indoor car show coming up in Houston, Texas.
Okay. Yeah, so keep an eye out for that if you're listening to this. Especially if you're in the area. Yeah,
they're looking for some top cars to be showing up there. So
that's cool. Very cool.
It'd be cool to be part of that.
Yeah. So, I'm the podcast. I don't really do like a product thing, but like I said, I'm a fan. I've had the Crater Makers forever, and I'm interested in the fact that you've branched out into products and everything, and like you have some of the backer pads you brought in, and that's when I look at stuff like this. I think we brush by the conversation, but it's like when you get so involved in the industry, you start seeing where there's like missing things.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the backer pads are definitely one of those things. That it's just like you've been grinding, you've been seeing like, I'm doing this metal work, and then there's like tools that are kind of general.
Yeah.
But they don't really fit the exact thing that you're trying to do, and you know there's other people
that
out
could
there.
be better.
Yeah.
And other people would like this. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's where those stem from. I mean, you know, when you're trying to do really nice metal work, and basically you get to the point where you're TIG welding everything, you have very minimal grinding to do, you know, in most cases.
Yeah.
You know, you want to keep your grinding flat instead of up on the corner.
Yeah.
You know, I'm convinced that the whole leaning on the edge is derived from a bad habit.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's because the backer pad wore out, or you're trying to get that last little bit out of your abrasive, and so you've developed this bad habit.
Yeah.
Where really, if you had a proper backing pad, you should be grinding flat, and it's gonna force you to be a better fabricator, if anything. So you don't have to lean on it so hard.
Yeah.
And you won't have to grind as much. If your welds are better, if your welds are smaller, you won't have to grind as much.
Yeah.
You want to be a welder or a grinder?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And so, but that all comes into play the better you get at metal shaping and metal fitting and TIG welding and all of those things. The better you get, well, then tools like this really come into play and help you be even better on your metal finishing, and it speeds things up. So they've been really popular. People love them. These have been another one of our real popular products, the 3-inch backing pad.
Yeah. But that's like I said, it's like you think of your career and all this conversation that we've had, and you start detecting like these things, you know, and like I've used tools that like most general people might not, they might not catch on. They're like, but there's another thing out there, whatever, it's easier to get. And it's like, yeah, but that thing's doing that last 10-15% that you're looking for that change in there. And that's a random number I'm throwing because I mean these are two different types of pads, but like you pay attention to those things the further you get into it.
Absolutely.
You know, so that's really cool. I'm excited to see. I mean, you've got the blocks back there, and you know, you're really diving into a lot of really cool stuff from the classes and being able to see it from online and all that. And I'm really excited for that because like the more our industry expands into these things, like there's more opportunity for the younger generation to have it a little bit better than we did.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, you know, we're doing the digital courses, and I got some ideas on how we could expand on that a little bit. You know, it's there again, it's things that I'm not 100% sure how to implement it.
Yeah.
You know, I've got some pretty big ideas, which I don't really want to share all of it right now.
Yeah,
but,
for sure. Yeah.
But, you know, you get into the digital world, there's so many things you can do. You know, we're using AI now all the time, which, you know, a year or so ago, I got laughed at for that. You know, oh, you're going to use AI for hot rod building? How? You know,
there's a lot of ways.
Dude, we're using it every day in the shop for creating content, for creating copy for our website, for all kinds of stuff, for automation, for sales leads.
Yeah.
I mean, we're using it daily now. And
I really think there's a lot of aspects of that will save these cars.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast yet, but I know I've posted about it before, but like the fact that you can 3D print a die.
Yeah.
Even if it's bad after the fourth one, whatever, the fact that you have the ability to, in your own place, anybody can create a die of something, a stamping, and like a car, you know, some kind of part, some kind of, you know, whatever for a truck or something that you didn't have access before.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there's the possibilities are like, I really think that a lot of this is going to save.
Oh,
these
yeah,
vehicles.
absolutely. I mean, it just helps you think outside the box. You don't got to do things the old-fashioned way. I mean, you know, I've heard people say that lately. Oh, yeah, it used to just be blood, sweat, and tears, you know, and you just did it. What happened to good old hard work? Well, it's still hard.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you're using different tools. You're using digital tools. You're using machines. It's still a lot to it. You're just able to do it a little bit better now and a little bit more efficiently. But you have to want to break out of that old self and learn something new, you know, where I think a lot of the younger generation will fall right into it if they're into this. And that's something else we could talk about is like the trades and you know, so you got AI coming up. rumor is it's going to take out a bunch of jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Not our jobs,
Yeah.
because this is hand-built stuff. AI is never going to be able to hand-build a truck.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of artists and a lot of, you've seen the list of all the jobs, and they're dwindling. They're already losing their jobs because AI can do it so much more efficiently. Well, that's also the flip side of that coin is, well, the tradesmen and women, the plumbers, the electricians, the carpenters, the welders, the fabricators, those guys are not going to be replaced by AI. Is it hard work? Yes. But, that's one of the things that I'm kind of looking at is, okay, I'm already teaching how to do metal shaping. Now, that's not really the most popular trade, but we can show you how to weld. Come take our class and we'll show you how to weld.
Yeah. Yeah. Bodywork.
Bodywork.
All those things.
Bodywork is going to be a popular one. You're always going to need body repair men and women.
Yeah.
Painters. So we're starting to dabble into that, but we're also, while we're doing this, we're also turning them into digital courses, which is a lot of work too. Like people think, oh, it's just a digital course. Like, what am I going to get out of that? Dude, we are like, if you haven't checked them out, we are spending hours and hours videotaping this stuff with nice cameras, with audio, and basically it's the next best thing from being in person.
Yeah.
For pennies on the dollar. I mean, instead of spending $1,000 on a class, you spend $100 or whatever it is. You're getting basically all the same information.
Yeah.
You're just not getting the hands-on. And so I feel like, you don't got to get a hotel. You don't got to get, we're talking about spending $3,000 on a weekend to come to a class versus you can get almost all the same stuff for a fraction of the cost. Why wouldn't you do that? But, I mean, I've been seeing it now, like there's just not there's not a ton of people signing up for that stuff yet. And I think it has something to do with just the mindset of our industry. We're not cultured to go sign up for a digital course. Yeah. We're like people that are doing crafts and stuff, they are. They're signing up for women all over the place are signing up for digital courses, and these people making millions of dollars off of these signups. Yeah. So I want to kind of get into steering my portion of what I do that direction a little bit, and making that available, even though it's like it's not really 100% active yet. I think it will be, and yes, you got the YouTube videos, but they're limited. We are teaching specific things. Like we're even going to be doing some CAD ones. We've already done a couple of CAD ones on how to do Fusion 360. I'm going to be doing the SolidWorks ones. So basically what we're doing is doing a screen record of the computer. So you're seeing and I make the cursor big so you can see exactly where I'm clicking. And I know this is important because that's how I learned how to do CAD, was off of watching somebody's mouse click on this. Even if you don't understand the language, you can follow along and show you step by step how to design this part. Yeah. And so we're going to do basic ones. We're going to do complex ones. So we've already done some 3D scanning ones too, basically showing how to scan a whole vehicle. And then I show how to take a scan and convert it to a SolidWorks file. So that basically showing how you go from scan to SolidWorks to 3D print or whatever, and like a lot of the videos that I learned from, they don't show you all the steps. You get some of the steps from this video, and then you're searching and hoping you can find the other steps for this, and then you have to find the other steps over here and put it all together, and that's the hard way to do it. But why not just spend a little bit of money and just learn exactly what you want from the people in your industry? Yeah. And you don't even got to get on a plane.
Man, that's really cool. I really like the fact that you're like bringing access to people. Exactly. Making it more reasonable for them and trying to give them the most information you can give them. And I think that will lead people in a better direction. Yeah. Because we didn't really get access to that like that.
Yeah, no way.
Especially not that easy.
I was lucky if I could get Ron Covell to come go to his class somewhere.
Yeah. Or you get that VHS. Yeah. Well, man, this is a lot of fun. I really do like appreciate you spending the time to talk about yourself, like get people to know who you really are, the time in this industry. Like it really shows that like the things you're doing now is backed by tons of experience with the right people and everything. And it's really cool to get to know how your life has been with that.
Yeah.
So, where can people find you on social media?
Sure. So, well, we've got a website, hammerfab.com.
Mm-hmm.
Got everything on there. And then we're at Hammer Fab on Instagram and Hammer Fab Official on YouTube and Hammer Fab LLC on Facebook.
Okay,
So,
man. Well, that's a lot of fun.
yeah.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for
This
having
is a
me.
great episode. Thank
Yeah.
you. Well, we got another episode down. Hey, thanks for listening to the Automotive Artistry. My name's Miguel, and let me tell you something about this podcast. First off, I'm really into this industry. I love all the aspects from metalwork, TIG welding, body work, paint work. I do this stuff myself for a living. I've been doing it for 23 plus years, at least at this moment, and this is stuff that I do every day. I'm really into it, and it's something that I think if you're listening to this, you probably are too. Maybe a couple aspects, maybe a lot of the same aspects that I'm into, but it really doesn't matter to me whether it's lowrider graphics on custom paintwork down to metal shaped parts, uh, fabricated, custom panels, all like it really doesn't matter. That stuff really interests me. So the people that I have on this podcast, that's what they do. So some of them might cover certain aspects, but either way, every episode is going to be a little bit different. So, but I'm also very interested in the people behind the work that we do. So I really want you to get the perspective of what it takes to be someone who's been 20, 30 plus years in the industry and to be as successful as some of the people that are on the podcast. And throughout the success that they have, you're going to hear the stories of struggle. You're going to hear there's so much stuff between every single person. So even though you see someone, maybe it's someone who's been on the TV, maybe someone that you see that's got, just real popular on Instagram or whatever it is, you're going to see that this person's really a person and that they go through their struggles and that it's taken X amount of time for them to get to where they are today. And it doesn't have to be somebody who's really, 20 plus years in the industry. I've had guests on here who are 5 years, and you hear their story and how they're going along. So that's really the point of the podcast. I really want people to get to understand some of these aspects, and even down to we get pretty technical sometimes. My podcast is not about being ultra technical every single time, but I want it to be very relatable to the people that are watching and listening. Look, if you want to support the podcast, there's a couple ways that right now that we have. You can check out aworkingclass.bigcartel.com, and you can find some of our merchandise on there. Right now, it's some products from our old branding, but either way, any of that helps. Doing this podcast, building a studio, it takes a lot. So if you want to help support, check out our website. And the other thing that helps out a lot, if this episode spoke out to you, if you could share it, that makes such a big difference. Look, I'm not trying to make clickbait titles or anything. I'm trying to bring real world experience down from the automotive side. So by doing that, sometimes it gets a little hard for me to even advertise. I actually hate advertising, but I got to do it anyways. So what I really want to be able to do is share these podcasts in a way that's very genuine, and it really seems like it's hard to do that on these platforms. So again, if you want to share, an episode that spoke to you, that helps tremendously. So, anyways, listen, thanks for listening. I say that a lot, but I really do mean it because our automotive industry is something that it's growing, it's getting better, the technology is getting better, the people are getting better, the information that's out there is getting better, and I'm just trying to help some of that flow through a little bit easier. So Thank you for your interest in the Automotive Artistry Podcast.